Linda Burton is suing store owner Cynthia Leary for the return or value of jewelry she allowed her to sell on consignment.
Order. All rise. Yeah, it's case number 564 on the calendar in the matter of Burton versus Leary.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Burton, this is your complaint, if I understand it. You left some jewelry with Miss Leary on consignment to sell. The jewelry was allegedly stolen. You want the value of the jewelry. That's
Correct.
what your lawsuit's about. Miss Leary, where was your place of business?
I'm in the Oceanside area.
Are you still in business?
Yes, I am.
And you have a lease on a store there?
Correct.
How long have you had the lease on the store there?
Probably about 4 years.
And what kind of store is it?
Jewelry and antiques.
Who do you have a lease with?
Todd.
He owns the building?
Correct.
How much rent do you pay?
About $1,000.
I don't know what that means. About $1,000.
$995 a month.
And how long have you been paying that rent?
As long as I've been there.
4 years.
Correct.
You take jewelry on consignment, correct?
Correct.
And when you sell it, whatever the difference is between what you give to the person who brought in the jewelry and what you got for the jewelry is your profit?
Correct.
So I assume, since you pay rent every month, you have a profit in the business.
Correct.
Now, who is your insurance carrier? Don't go for it. I mean, who is your insurance carrier?
I'm not insured at the moment. It's very difficult. Insurance is a cyclical thing, and sometimes when the economy is bad and losses are high, insurance companies are not willing to take small businesses. So it's very difficult to get insurance.
When was the last time you had insurance?
Probably about 3 years ago.
It's not what you told me.
What happens if somebody slips and falls in your store?
My liability insurance covers it.
So you have insurance, because otherwise Todd wouldn't rent you his business, right?
Right.
So who do you have your insurance with?
At the moment, I do not have insurance.
Well, is that in violation of your lease?
Yes.
When did you allegedly, Miss Burton, bring your jewelry into Miss Leary?
November of 2009.
What did you bring in?
I brought in a wedding set that included an engagement ring, a band, and a men's band as well, and then over 1 carat stud diamond earrings, all by the brand Corey.
Did you have appraisals on all of that?
At one point, yes, I did have appraisals on everything, but what I still have with me today is an appraisal of the diamond in the engagement ring.
I'd like to see it.
Okay. There's a picture of the wedding set as well. And I have comparable items.
Don't give me comparable items. This is...
In 2006, my house was burglarized, and I lost a lot of very important documents. This is what I was able to retrieve.
It makes no difference to me. Now, you brought the jewelry in there in November 2009. I would like to see the receipt that she gave you in November 2009.
At the very top, it states the...
I can read.
Okay.
Are you a storefront, Miss Leary?
Correct.
Suite A is what?
It's a small store.
Okay. I want you to take a look at this, please. Now, I don't know what that is, except that it looks as if you either valued or put down a price for the wedding set of $4,000. What does that mean, Miss Leary?
That I was going to try to sell that for $4,000.
That was the minimum.
Just a second. That's what that means.
Correct.
Okay. Now, she has an appraisal replacement value from Robbins Brothers.
That's just the diamond.
Just a second. Let me tell you something. I buy a lot of jewelry. I know what appraisals are like. How much did you pay for the wedding set?
I have receipts from back then. The total for just
I'd like to take a look at them.
Okay, this is the receipt for, you're seeing the appraisal for just the diamond.
Just a second.
Okay.
Just let me see.
Okay.
Okay.
May I explain that? Because that is just the band, the Tacori band that the diamond was set in. Does not include the diamond in that. Can you show her this too? Because it shows.
That's interesting. Yeah. Okay.
This will make a little more sense if you look at this as well. It shows the diamond, the price for the diamond, the band, and the setting.
Let me understand this. You paid, allegedly, $5,000 for this wedding set.
More than that. And that's just the engagement ring. That doesn't include the eternity band or the men's band as well.
Does the men's band have any stones in it?
No.
Okay.
I have they're still selling it on the website.
Listen to me. You paid $5,000 for the engagement ring, and you thought you could sell it for $4,000. I just want to understand that.
Judge Judy, it was my understanding that she had paid quite a bit for the pieces, and I felt that she had overpaid for them, and I was trying to do as best I could.
Or is that a promise that you made to her, you know, to get her to give you the jewelry, and then if you can only get $2,000 for it, you call and say, I can only get $2,000 for it, do you want it or not?
That's correct.
Correct. I understand how the game is played. You know, you overvalue it, you come back, you say, this is all I can get for it, do you want it or not? Now, what happened with the jewelry was that according to you, it got stolen out of your car.
All my jewelry that day got stolen out of my car, correct, yes.
What was her jewelry doing in your car?
I had just done a show, and I had the jewelry packed up, getting ready to put it back into the vault in Oceanside.
When it was all packed up, where was it?
It was in my car, locked.
Where in the car?
In the front seat of the car.
In what?
You know, in a bag, in a jewelry bag, in a jeweler's bag.
What does a jeweler's bag look like?
I would say it's kind of a black zippered case, 2x3 type of thing.
And it was on the driver's side or the passenger side?
It was on the passenger side.
And where were you?
I was paying for my security's gas and my gas. We were in separate cars in the gas station.
So your security was behind you?
Correct.
Not being watchful? Because somebody had to come up to the car, right? If they stole it out of the car.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This is your security? She licensed to carry a firearm?
No.
Then she's your buddy. Security carries a weapon. What is she going to do? Say, I don't touch that.
And later today.
That sounded like a Disneyland ride.
Really?
What are you on, you crazy?
You two people appear to be a Disneyland ride.
Linda Burton claims store owner Cynthia Leary owes for jewelry she allowed her to sell on consignment. Cynthia says the items were stolen from her during a robbery at a gas station.
Now, somebody had to know that black bag, just a second, somebody had to know that black bag with the zippered case was a jeweler's bag. Somebody had to be smart enough to know that, right?
Correct.
And you selected the security person, not her.
Right.
Okay. I'd like to see the police report, and I'd like to see your police report.
By the way, she didn't want to give me a copy of the police report. I had to go to Long Beach Police Department to get a copy of it myself. I wasn't even sure if the jewelry had even been stolen. Wasn't sure if I was being scammed or what. She doesn't list me in the report.
Did you fill out the loss report sheet?
Yes, I did.
You have a copy of it?
Not with me.
Well, the police gave you a loss report sheet.
Correct.
And you were instructed how to fill it out.
Yes, I filled it out. It's about 10 pages.
And they have it at the police department, is that right?
Correct.
So that's easy for you to get. And for my clerk to get.
Takes about 2 weeks' time to get it.
No, what I'm saying to you, it's
yes,
accessible.
It can be yes.
Absolutely accessible.
Yes, it is.
Well, when did you file your lawsuit?
Okay, that was last month, February.
But you've known about this case for about a year, correct? So why wouldn't you get a copy of the loss report form?
I have a copy. I didn't bring it.
Where is it?
at my store.
Who's at your store?
No one today.
Mm-hmm. Do you list the plaintiff's jewelry as having been stolen?
Yes.
All of her items?
All but one.
Which one?
The Eternity Band.
And why didn't you list that?
Because that one was sold.
Sold?
Oh.
When was it sold?
Prior to the show.
And when did you transmit to the plaintiff the money for the Eternity Band?
I have not as yet.
Why not? That happened a year ago.
Because of the major loss of in May.
Who cares? You sold her property and you didn't give her the money for it. I have a feeling from looking at her face, it's the first she's heard that you sold any of her property. Why is that? Why is that?
I thought that I had told her that.
You thought that you told her that?
That the one piece had sold.
Well, telling her that her jewelry is sold and giving her the money are two different things. A year later, how much do you say you sold it for?
$500.
Well, why didn't you turn over the money to her? I mean, is there no reason?
Just with the loss, I have been unable to.
That's not a reason. You pay your rent. You're still in business.
It's been very difficult.
You sold her property. It's like stealing. If you sold her property, if you listed it, see, you have to ask questions before you get an answer. You sound sympathetic, but you're really not sympathetic. Because who is Dana?
That's me.
That's you. This is your security?
Mm-hmm.
She carry a weapon? She licensed to carry a firearm?
No.
Then she's your buddy, who you went to the flea market with?
No.
Because that's where you took her stuff, to a flea market.
No.
And you rented a booth in a flea market.
No.
Don't say anything. Security carries a weapon. You're walking around with $100,000 worth of jewelry. What is she going to do? Say, I don't touch that. When you hire security, you don't go with your buddy Dana. So that's not security. And you may be right. Someone may have followed you from the flea market. That's a possibility. That's why if you were going to hire a security, you would hire security who wouldn't be pumping gas, not looking at what was going on while you were going inside to pay for the gas, because that's what it says in the paper. So she's not much of a security with or without a gun.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
He's like talking, wants all the attention, but I'm doing something on the phone. He grabs it out of my hand and throws it out the window, and now the attention, he's got it all.
Linda Burton claims store owner Cynthia Leary owes for jewelry she allowed her to sell on consignment. Cynthia says the items were stolen from her during a robbery at a gas station.
Now, so you have that look of an innocent victim, but you actually stole her money a year ago. You sold her property over a year ago and you didn't pay her for it. And we're not talking about what got stolen of her property allegedly, because I'm not even sure her property got stolen, but you say you listed most of her property in the stolen property that you furnished to the police. I'm not even so sure that's true.
It is true.
Well, it's true you stole her money. That I do know. You sold her property, you didn't pay her, and you stole her money. I'm not talking about $5,000, but I know about $500. And if you would steal $500, you'd steal $5,000. If you'd steal 50 cents, you'd steal $5,000.
It's not
if you would steal 500, you would scam out of 5,000. And I'm not so sure how many other people's jewelry was in this assortment of $100,000 that you allegedly lost that day while your security was pumping gas and you weren't in the car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She never listed me in that loss.
I was just a few feet away from it.
So I don't know if my jewelry was in there or not.
When they took a pickaxe and broke my glass.
Whether it was stolen or not, I never got
broad daylight.
The jewelry back, and I got 1 cent of payment that she agreed to pay me.
That we tried to cover it under the homeowners.
I couldn't believe that she asked me to put it on my homeowner, use my homeowners.
That the insurance had lapsed.
It's not that my homeowners had ever lapsed.
I just felt that
I would have never have declared it on my homeowners
with that loss that it should have been covered under her insurance.
because that would have been fraudulent. It wasn't in my home. It wasn't in my possession.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of McKillop versus Sridharan. Step forward, please.
23-year-old Ashley McKillop is suing her ex-roommate, 24-year-old Abish Sridharan, for throwing her cell phone out of a car window.
It is your claim that the defendant, who was a friend of yours, broke your cell phone and then caused some negative things to be published about you on the internet, and you want to be compensated for both. The defendant says that you broke your own cell phone and that some of his friends must have published this bad stuff about you on the internet. Okay. You know him how?
Through an ex-friend of his, my friend. I'd rather not say his name, but should I?
No.
Okay. Anyways, so we met in October through a mutual friend who is no longer his friend.
Could we pick up the pace a little bit?
So pretty much, long story short, like, I'm living in my apartment. We're hanging out, we're friends. He needs a place to stay. I have 1 room, and I'm like, hey, Abish, I have a room. You need a room? Stay at the room. And so he does. We're having roommate situations, and he and I go to Empire Grill. We have a few drinks. I'm driving. We sit in the parking lot on the curb. He's like talking, wants all the attention. But you know what? I don't give him 110% all the time. I'm doing something on the phone. He grabs it out of my hand and throws it out the window, hard, smash, if you will. And I'm like, you're gonna pay for that? He's like, ha, 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 whatever. Now the attention, he's got it all. So,
And on what date did this happen?
This happened on the 17th of February.
Now I'd like you to tell me what happened with her telephone.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Go ahead.
This is what exactly happened.
Don't look over there.
Huh? Okay,
You
sorry.
Stare at me like she was.
Okay.
With those big eyes.
Okay, so we went on a date. We went to this bar to drink, and she got really drunk. And then we were sitting on her car, and then she kept on receiving like 10 texts at like 1 minute. So I just looked at her phone, and I'm like, there was some really nasty, dirty message in that. So I'm like, this is what happens when you take random people's number at a bar. And this made her really upset and frustrated, and she grabs the phone from my hand and throws out the window.
That sounded like a Disneyland ride.
Really?
What are you on, you crazy?
You 2 people appear to be a Disneyland ride.
Well, his story.
Listen to me, Miss McKillop.
That was a ride we all just went on.
Miss McKillop, this is what we're going to do.
Yes.
I'm dismissing your case without prejudice. You can go back to small claims court and deal with your problem.
For real?
Because I don't want to deal with you. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I was with her for like 6 months. I was in a physical relationship.
No. Friendship only.
It started with a friendship.
I invite him to a place that I planned on staying at.
Then we moved on to it went into physical.
And he's like, oh, see ya, bye, taking over.
Then emotions got attached.
Mommy's little boy, like, yeah, great job.
But I don't know what's up with her.
But in all honesty, I've had harder slaps in the face.
She's mad, I don't know.
The same thing I've been doing since I've moved out.
So I don't know what's gonna happen with her.
And that is bon voyage.
On Miller versus Hager. Step forward, please.
Dairy farmer Bird Miller wants 31-year-old Jason Hager to pay the damage caused to his pickup truck after clubbing it. Jason claims it was self-defense.
Order. All rise. Judge, number 204 on the calendar in the matter of Miller versus Hager. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Have a seat. Here you go.
Shame on you both. Always strikes me is when two adult men get into a car and get into a contest and let their testosterone take off and rule their heads, there's trouble, especially when there's a child in the car, like this gorgeous little blonde thing. Mr. Miller, you're suing Mr. Hager because you say that after some sort of a dispute in your car, he was driving his, you yours, he attacked your car with a club.
Yes.
And caused almost $400 worth of damage to the car. Tell me how it started, sir.
I was making a turn off of Valley View Street. I was going south. There's a frontal road there beside of it. Hager was coming, going south also on it. He run the stop sign. And as a result of it, I almost hit him. If I hadn't stopped, I would have hit him. I blew my horn. He raised his finger at me, and we proceeded down the frontal road.
So you're both now going in the same direction?
We're both going in the same direction.
And this is your grandchild?
Yes.
She was in the car with you?
Yes.
Where was she sitting, front or back?
Well, it was a pickup, so she's in the front.
Right next to you?
Yes.
Go ahead.
We came to an alley that runs down behind a shopping mall, and we proceeded down it, and we got to the end of the stores.
Which car was first and which car was second?
He was following me.
Just a second. His car was first, your car was second.
Yes.
Were you following him, sir?
Yes.
Why?
I was behind him. I mean,
were you following?
I'm going in that direction.
He was chasing me.
Shh, just a second. I'm going to get to you in a second, sir. You said you got to an alley.
Well, it's an alley, and it's also behind the store, but it's a parking lot also.
Well, were you going into that parking lot, sir?
No, I wasn't going into the parking lot.
So you were actually not behind him. You were following him.
Okay, I was following him.
Now, why were you following him?
So I could get his tag number.
Okay. And then what happened?
As we got to the end of the stores, there's also another small frontal road that leads to the front of the stores. He partially made the turn and stopped, jumped out, grabbed his club, and ran at me while I'm stopped. I had, in the meantime, stopped. He ran about 30 feet towards my truck, ran up to the side of me, took a swing at me. I pulled my truck forward, and he hit the back of my cab.
Can I see the damage to your car?
If you'll notice, Your Honor, the damage is at an angle as if he was swinging something, and you'll see that it's also right in line with me in the truck. So if I hadn't pulled forward, he would have hit me in the truck.
This has an open top, sir?
No, it's you looking at. May I get it to you? Oh, come on, surely. I take better pictures than that.
I got it. I got it now. Oh, I thought it was a convertible truck. I hadn't seen one of those. All right. Now I got it. All right, Mr. Hager, let's hear you, sir.
Well, what he said is correct as far as he was following me. I was very close to my home. I didn't want him, I wasn't going to go home knowing he was following me. I became fearful, wasn't sure what I should do. So yeah, I stopped, and in an attempt to defend myself, knowing that not knowing what he's going to do, I did take my club. He sees me stop. He's coming at me. He puts his head out the window of his truck and says, "I'm going to run you over." That's when he started to come at me with the truck. I jump out of the way, and he backs up a little bit and comes at me again. The second time is when he came close enough to me that I could swing and hit the truck.
All right, so I have a few questions for you, Mr. Hager. You live in that area, sir?
Yes. I was less than a block away from my home.
And how long have you lived there?
About 18 months.
So you know where the local police precinct is?
Actually, I found it after this.
You mean you didn't know before?
No. Well, it's a very large city. I wasn't sure where to go.
I don't believe you, sir. You see, I see this. You see, I see this around here.
Well,
and I'm like a truth machine. So don't tell me that you didn't know where to find a policeman.
I went to. Well, no, that would have been the alternative. Was drive around.
That's an alternative rather than getting out of your car with a club.
Right.
Because it doesn't seem to me to be logical, sir, that if you're in fear of your life, you are defending yourself against a 2-ton truck with a 2-pound club.
Right.
You see, that doesn't make sense. To me, what makes sense is if you're in fear, you stay in your car. What kind of a car were you driving?
A Camaro.
So you stay in your Camaro and you drive around until you see a police car, if you don't know where the local police precinct is.
Right.
Right.
But I thought of that after, but in the fear, I wasn't thinking that logically.
Listen to me, Mr. Hager. Why were you in fear, sir? You were in your car, windows closed, right? Windows closed.
No.
You could have closed the windows, Mr. Hager, right? You do have
yes.
electric windows in your Camaro?
Yes.
So you press a button, you close the window, and you keep driving, and you say to yourself, I got some nut here behind me. I'm not going to get out of this car. I'm going to stay in my car. But you get out of your car. Where was the club?
On the passenger seat.
You pick up the club, and you get out of your car. That doesn't make sense to me, Mr. Hager.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Wonder how afraid he was when he stuck his finger up. Could we ask him that question?
And later today,
Make me look like a liar. Make me look bad when you know you was stripping and you know you was working. Nicole, don't stand there and lie.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bird Miller says Jason Hager's gesture led to violence, smashing Bird's pickup.
You pick up the club and you get out of your car. That doesn't make sense to me, Mr. Hager. It doesn't, it's illogical, sir.
To drive around looking for the police, I needed to, at some point, decide I'm going to stop and defend myself. That was it.
Defend yourself against what, sir?
This gentleman.
He's in his car.
I don't know that he's going to threaten to run me over. I think he's going to get out.
How can he run you over in your Camaro, sir? Sitting in your car, how can he run you over, Mr. Hager?
He can't.
Right. Sitting in your car, he can't run you over. Only when you're outside of your car, standing there armed with a weapon, can he run you over. Your mistake was getting out of the car. And then you hit his truck. So you were in a combat posture with a weapon. I mean, I'm not suggesting that what this man did was correct. I think, Mr. Miller, to be quite honest with you, sir, you're old enough to use your brains, and if this guy ran a stop sign, as you say, of course, you didn't run the stop sign. Is that correct?
Correct.
I knew that. I knew that's what you would say. But you have a very precious cargo. Not you, her. And so if you have a very precious cargo, and if you were fortunate enough, and God was watching you, and you didn't have an accident at that stop sign, you take a deep breath, and you say, phew, finished. I'm grateful that there was no accident, and you keep going. If you can get his license, that's fine. But to follow him into an alley is not swift.
It's really not an alley, Your Honor. I understand what you're saying, but
you understand what I'm saying.
I don't mean it's a,
I understand, but you got hot.
Oh, absolutely.
So you
I'm not denying it at all.
Yeah, well, you want to get hot with you alone in the car. That's one thing, but you don't get hot when you have a baby in the car, especially a baby that looks like that.
Could I add something to this?
Sure, sir.
Okay. He said I almost hit him there at the stop sign. If you look at the pictures, you will see there's a medium between Valley View and where he would have been sitting. So, in other words, I would have had to jump across the median in order to hit him.
Interesting, not terribly relevant, because we're not talking about what happened at the stop sign. What we're talking about was Mr. Hager's. You both exercised poor judgment on that day, in my view. But Mr. Hager's judgment is going to cost him the amount that you claim you spent or will spend to fix your car, and I assume you have a bill for that.
Your Honor, I have a bill for the damage. I don't have a bill for a rental car. It'll take 3 days to fix the truck, which is $25 a day.
Well, Mr. Miller, for your bad judgment, it's going to cost you to rent your car.
All right.
For his bad judgment, it's going to cost him to fix your car. And the grand total here is $279.80 to fix your car. Mr. Hager, it was a very dumb thing that you did, because he may not have been the kind of person that he is, and he may have, in fact, run you over. And
I'm sure of that.
And your 2-pound club wasn't going to help you. So,
well, you know, my question is, if he cares enough about this truck to get it fixed, why is he chasing people and threatening them with it?
Mr. Hager, he wasn't smart to try to chase you to get your plate number, and I assume that that's what he was trying to do. He did not get out of his cab. You got out of your car. Dumb. Stupid. And not only did you get out of your car, you got out of your car with a weapon. So it's going to cost you. The amount it's going to cost you is the amount that it's going to cost to fix his car. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Thank you, Joe. Out the back, go to your right, please.
Come on.
And now the next case.
Parties on Cruz. Ambrosini versus Hernandez. Step forward, please.
16-year-old Nicole Ambrosini and her 20-year-old boyfriend, Moses Cruz, claim exotic dancer Lisette Hernandez owes them a refund on a condo.
You folks were living in the same hotel that the defendant was living in temporarily. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that where you became friends?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Well, we didn't become friends there. We became friends at work.
Okay. Don't tap. And there came a time when you were going to buy a condo. Is that right?
Yes.
And you approached the defendants to see if they wanted to rent a room in your condo that you were purchasing.
Exactly.
According to these papers, you said yes?
Yes.
And you needed some money.
Exactly.
How much money did you need?
$700.
And as sort of a down payment on their room, you gave her the $700?
Correction, Your Honor, that was $750. I have 2 contracts here signing. I had to pay a $500 first month and a $250 security deposit.
Okay, can I see what you have there,
yes,
please?
ma'am. These are 2 pieces of evidence that I have, 2 contracts that Lisette signed herself.
Okay, fine. So let's assume it was $750. This is some contract.
I was in a rush, Your Honor. Grabbed the first thing I could. The next one's better.
Okay. And then, for some reason, which I'm sure that you will tell me, you decided not to move into the condo, and she gave you back $100, according to these papers. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am, she has.
And you want the other $650.
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She was dancing with me. We were both dancers.
No. I'm
okay?
sorry, I'm 16
and I made
years old.
$3,000.
I'm 16 years old.
I made $3,000, and she know that.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 16-year-old Nicole Ambrosini and her 20-year-old boyfriend, Moses Cruz, want the money back on a condo from exotic dancer Lisette Hernandez. Lisette says they moved out without giving notice.
Well, there came a time, I gather from these papers, that you moved out of the hotel but did not move right into the condo.
Right, Your Honor.
Where did you move?
Okay, at that time, we needed a place.
This is your boyfriend?
Yes, this is my boyfriend, Moses. We were looking for another location to live while we were waiting for the condo. We were going to just stay in the hotel. It was very expensive, so Lisette kindly offered us to stay in her boyfriend's house and pay $100 a week. We did that, and we stayed there for about 2 to 3 weeks, I believe, and we paid him for every week. At that time, we were told that she needed the money immediately, and we gave that money to her within 3 days because she had said she had a closing to meet. And it would
Closing on the condo.
Yes.
I understand that.
She said it would be about a month to get it, okay? So in our minds, we're thinking, okay, we only have to tough this out for about a month. We wound up not getting a condo or not moving into a place for 3 months. We were waiting to move in for 3 months.
Just a minute.
For 3 months, Your Honor.
Did you stay in the boyfriend's house for 3 months?
Yes. No, we did not. We stayed in the boyfriend's house for about 3 weeks. The other times we were staying at the hotel, and then my father was moving out of his apartment, and he was moving out half of the month early. So
you moved someplace else.
Yes.
Right.
But there came a time when you ultimately said to her, I don't want to move in.
Right.
And when was that?
That was in, I guess, February, March, April.
How much
April.
after you had left the hotel and moved into the boyfriend's house did you tell her, I want my money back, I don't want to move in?
About a month.
About a month.
That's a lie.
Okay, you tell me.
That's a lie. It was one day. Okay, this is what happened. When they moved into the apartment with my boyfriend, with me and my boyfriend, they was paying $100 a week, which is true. Okay, now, when they was moving out, I didn't know they was moving out. My boyfriend tells me one day, Lisette, do you know that they moving out? I said, what? He said, yeah, they're moving out. I said, no, I don't know nothing about it. He said, well, I'm getting ready to leave, so when I leave, you talk to them and ask them. When I came to you and asked her, I said, Nicole, y'all moving out? She said, yeah, we moving out. My father left me. Wait a minute. My father left me. My father left me an apartment, and I'm going to move into it, and we're going to keep paying the rent there or whatever to stay there. I said to her, so what do you expect me to do? You expect me to take the money right now and just give it to you when I don't have it? You know I'm trying to get this condominium, and I don't have the money right now to give to you. Okay, but before that happened, one day we had went out, or we was working or whatever. She was waitressing, and I was working in a place where we was working at. I made $4,000 that day, and I said to Nicole, I said, here, you know, I gave her like $1,200 to help her out or whatever. I never asked her for the money back. I never said nothing to her.
Listen to me. Listen to me.
Your Honor,
that's exactly what it was, $1,200.
Miss Hernandez, I'm going to simplify this. I've just, while you've been telling me this whole story, been looking at these 2 papers. These 2 papers, I assume that you recall signing. Is that right?
Right, and I agreed to pay her back the money. I did.
Okay, so
and I told her that I would pay for it as soon as I'd be able to get the money.
You signed the contract. So you owe her the money.
Right.
How much did you pay her back?
$100.
So you owe her $650.
Right, but she moved to Texas. But how did she expect me? I live in Florida. She lives, hold up. She gave me an address and expects me to make her money order every week and send her $50.
She said she would do
stamp
that.
and everything.
Moses.
I said to her, let me finish.
Sorry,
they said they will come back to they was moving back to Florida, whatever.
Miss Hernandez.
She said that.
Moses.
Moses.
You got to train him better.
I try, Your Honor, I try.
You got to try harder. If you don't do it now, it'll be too late. Do you understand?
Yeah.
They get into bad habits.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Miss Hernandez, you owe her the $650.
Right.
Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $650.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I wanted to make this easier for you, but in that time that I was struggling, trying to get money back, broke, Lisette wasn't paying us, my mother, who is a witness here today, sent me $300. I was living independently at the time.
What are you lecturing about? Just a second. What are you lecturing about? You sued for $650. I gave you $650.
Okay.
Say goodbye and thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Nerves.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I'm a dancer, number one. She was dancing with me. We were both dancers.
No. I'm sorry, I'm 16
and I made
$3,000.
$3,000. I made $3,000, and she know that.
We won. We have our money. It doesn't money.
And you're still a little liar. Okay, you're still a little liar.
Better than being a prostitute.
She's a bigger prostitute.
Parties on Mixture versus Clouser. Step forward, please.
19-year-old nanny Samantha Nixie claims Jamie and Bob Clouser fired her before her contract was finished. The Clousers say they were justified firing her. she was belligerent to their children.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Your Honor, this is case number 227 on the calendar in the matter of Mixture versus Clouser. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
How do you pronounce your last name? Mixture?
Mixture.
You were hired by the defendants to take care of their two little boys
Yes, I was.
as a nanny.
Mm-hmm.
That was in August of this year. You worked for them for 3 days and they fired you.
4.
4 days and they fired you. You want to be compensated because you say they breached a contract that they had with you.
Yes.
How did you find this job?
It was through a nanny agency.
Had you worked for the agency before?
Not through the agency, but I did have a job at the time when I went for the interview as a nanny.
Why did you leave that job?
Unsanitary conditions.
How long had you been working at that job?
For about 2 or 3 weeks.
So for a short time. Before that, who did you work for?
I worked for a cosmetic company.
So you really had no experience as a nanny?
Not an in-home nanny, but as a preschool teacher. I worked for a year as a preschool teacher overseas and an international preschool.
You put an ad through this agency. You
Correct.
applied to this agency. You paid them a fee, I assume.
We did not pay the fee because the fee had not been paid by the time that we had fired, and she did not charge us for the fee.
Did you ask for references?
Yes, I have her application that have references and her work experience and.
So you knew she had no experience as a nanny?
We knew that she had experience in a preschool that was in Egypt.
That you never checked on?
We never checked on, no.
That's not smart.
No.
How old are your children?
Casey is actually a girl, 5, and Trey is 2.
Why did you let her go?
I came home the first night, actually her first day with the kids by herself, because I had spent 1 day with her, with the children. And they did not hear me come in because they were upstairs in the bathroom with the door shut. She was running the shower to give the kids a bath. They didn't know that I had come in, and even though I was saying hello, hello, walked up to the top of the stairs, and as I got to the top of the stairs, I could hear her angrily talking to the kids, knock it off, get over here right now, your mother is going to be home in just a minute, knock it off. It wasn't so much what she said, it was the tone and the anger in her voice. So I sat and listened to it for a couple of minutes. And finally, when I had knocked on the door, there was utter surprise that I was there, of course. And then she came out smiling and telling me what a wonderful day they had had. In the back of my mind, I thought, if this is a wonderful day, what's going to happen on a bad day?
Okay.
I know dealing with 2 children that there are bad days. The reason she got fired was because I didn't feel that her ability was there to handle ongoing stressful situations.
No.
Okay. Did you pay her for the week?
I paid her for the week.
Is that right?
Yes, she did, but that's not true at all, Your Honor. I worked with 25 kids around the same age in Egypt for 1 year, and I never had complaints. Never, not one time. I'm very, very patient, and when she came home that day, I do admit I had a different tone in my voice, but this is the way I was trained, and I have always worked with kids this way, where I use a different tone so that they understand that I'm saying no, but I never ever was angry or yelled or knock it off. I never said that.
You don't have to establish to me that you used the tone, you didn't use the tone. In her mind, in her ears, she wasn't happy with your tone.
I understand that, but
So-
you know, when we did go out to the garage to talk about it, I apologized to her only because, like you said, she's the mother of these 2 kids. She knows what she likes to have said to her kids, how she likes it said. She didn't give me a chance maybe to try again.
She doesn't have to do that.
Your Honor, she knew that I had this job. I had told her the first day that I had a job already. And when she told me about the contract, that she always signs contracts with nannies to protect herself as well as the nanny.
Well, let me see the contract that you say you have.
I also have a piece of paper from the agency that claims that she was not working 3 to 4 months prior to her coming to our job.
Well, let me see what you have.
I told you before, though, that...
Let me see what you have. What date were you interviewed by these people?
I believe it was July 28th.
Okay, and you were told to start the very next week, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
So when did you quit your previous job?
I had already given her notice. I had already discussed with...
You gave her notice when?
I gave her notice after the nanny agency called me and told me that she has a few interviews for me, including Jamie's.
Okay, so before you were hired by her, you quit your job?
No.
That's what you just told me. I said, when did you give her notice? You just said to me, before, when I got a call from the nanny agency. Just a second, madam. Just make sure. I mean, I'm still lucid at my age. You just said to me, you gave notice to your job when you got a call from the agency, and the agency told you they had set up a couple of interviews for you.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, if I could
Just a
finish.
second. So you quit your job and gave notice before she hired you. That's what you just told me.
No, I didn't mean to say that. I had already given notice to them. What I had told Lily, the woman I was working for before, is that I told her that I'm looking for another job. I will stay with you until I find another job. I had told her this 1 week before I met Jamie and went on the interview. I told her I could leave at any time. I told her this.
For somebody who's very careful about their children, you hired somebody who's a pretty fast talker. I think that it's fine that you gave her a week's salary. I certainly think that if you wanted to be more reasonable and you were smarter, you would have given her 2 weeks' salary and said, look, I'm going to pay you for this week, and I'm even going to pay you for next week. So it'll give you an opportunity to go back to the agency. How much were you paid each week?
With the minimum?
Yes.
$187.50.
Is that right?
That's with the minimum.
You know, I mean, we do it by hours, so I don't know what the exact amount is. 25 hours minimum at $750.
$750.
You're suing for $3,700 and some odd dollars.
Yes. And
you don't have a prayer, madam. Not a prayer.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Do I look as if I need help from you? Just a second. Do I look like I need help from you?
No.
And later today,
she took a whole evening to come to my home with 2 police officers and a video camera. They searched my home, saying I stole her cat, I stole her dog. I mean, this went on and on and on.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nanny Samantha Mickshee wants Jamie and Bob Clauser to pay her salary, claiming she was wrongly fired.
I don't find that this agreement is anything more than a job description.
That was our interpretation when we wrote it. We wrote a work agreement, not a contract.
No, she told me contract.
And we guaranteed her that was a bad choice of words. The correct word would have been we assured her a certain number of hours each week.
Well, that's what
because we work a different. She worked a different number of hours.
Do I look as if I need help from you? Just a second.
Sorry.
Do I look like I need help from you?
No.
Weren't you listening to what I said, sir? What I said was I don't view this as a contract which guarantees her pay from now until the end of the year. What I view it as is a job description, which in effect guarantees her when she's working for you the minimum number of hours to ensure that she doesn't have to double up on jobs, which would give her, if she worked for you, 25 hours a week minimum. What I did say, if you were listening, was you fired her. And you fired her really for tone, because you weren't happy with the way she was handling a situation. Quite frankly, based upon what I'm hearing today, it was probably a very good choice that you made. However, in all fairness, she didn't do anything outrageous to your children, right?
Right.
So you should have given her a week's salary so that she could have at least spent the next week looking for another job. I do believe she gave notice to her job before. I mean, after all, she left them on a Friday and came to work for you on a Monday. That's not giving them a hell of a lot of notice. Not terribly responsible. I don't believe her story for a second. In any event, I think you should have given her another week's salary to give her an opportunity to find something else. So I'm going to give her $187.50. Nowhere near $3,700 that you want. This is not a guarantee, what they call in the television industry pay or play, right? Even if you don't work, you get paid. That's quite a trick. Even I don't get that. $187 for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Bottom line, my kids are safe, and I feel I made the right decision in the beginning.
We'll look a little deeper next time.
And now the next case.
Parties on Zeldin versus McInerney. Step forward, please.
33-year-old special ed instructor Robin Zeldin claims her former roommate, 40-year-old nurse Joan McInerney, abused her by bringing her to court too many times. She's suing for abuse of process.
You two ladies had been roommates from 1996 to 1997, according to the papers that I read.
Yes, Your Honor.
And that live-in situation terminated acrimoniously, I gather, because there have been a series of lawsuits for return of security deposit, to damage to the property, all in small claims court, and all of those cases have at this juncture been resolved.
Correct.
So the only thing that is outstanding now is a lawsuit that you filed against her for abuse of process, which is abusing the court system and you.
Yes, Your Honor.
By bringing you to court in a frivolous manner on multiple occasions.
Yes.
That's the only thing that I'm considering. Okay. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
How many lawsuits did she file against you?
She filed, first was a restraining order that she did not show up in court for. I did. It was dismissed.
When was that?
That was in January of 1998. And
do you have the papers on that?
Yes, I do, Your Honor. Then she filed in...
Just a minute. Let me take a look. You filed this action for a restraining order against her, is that right?
Yes, I did.
And then you didn't show up in court?
I didn't know I was supposed to show up. They just said if you file a restraining order, it was just to keep her away from me and stop her from threatening me. She constantly threatening me on the telephone.
Just a second. You filed this proceeding, and then on the day that it was scheduled to be heard, you didn't appear.
I didn't know I was supposed to appear for a temporary restraining order.
What did you think happened to a temporary restraining order?
That they were just going to serve her to stay away from me and stop threatening me. That's what I was told.
No, nobody told you that. All right. Anyway, so she filed this one, filed in December of 1997.
Correct.
Is the next action she filed against you?
In May 25th, 1998, in small claims court.
And you didn't appear on the return date?
I had major surgery April the 1st. Recuperating time was 6 months. I sent the judge everything.
Just a second. Hold it. You had major surgery in April?
April 1st.
And you were given a return date?
Yes.
What was that date?
I don't recall what the date was. I was recuperating at the time.
I have it June 24th, 1998.
All right. So 2.5 months after you were recuperating, you didn't appear in court, and you requested a continuance.
That's right.
How do you support yourself?
I'm a nurse.
When did you return to work?
After my surgery, approximately 6 weeks.
So while you had your surgery on the 1st of April, you returned to work in mid-June.
Yes.
So you returned to work prior to the return date on this case?
Yes, I was able to work
Just a second. You were able to work?
Yes.
Now, what reason did you give the judge for requesting a continuance?
I still had a cast on my leg. I worked with a cast on my leg.
Well, if you worked with a cast on your leg, listen to me, if you worked with a cast on your leg, you can get to court with a cast on your leg.
You know, the reason I didn't go to court many times is because my life was threatened by her. I don't know how many times when I was living with her.
I'm not interested in living with her.
And I was afraid of her.
No, listen to me. If you were afraid of her, madam, then you wouldn't have filed these lawsuits against her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I acted in a very cowardly manner. I was afraid of her.
Your actions don't say that. Your actions say, I'm going to give it to her, as my grandfather would say.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 33-year-old special ed instructor Robin Zeldin claims her former roommate, 40-year-old nurse Joan McInerney, abused her by bringing her to court too many times.
What I want to know is, you went back to work in June, well before you were scheduled to appear in court, and then you wrote to the court and you said to the court that you had just had major surgery and you were recuperating. Yes. That's what you told them.
Yes.
You didn't tell them you went back to work.
Part-time.
I don't care whether you went back to work part-time or full-time. Going to court is not a full-time job. It takes one evening. All right. So then you were given an adjourn date. because you wrote requesting an adjourn date. And what was the return date that you were then given?
I don't recall because I kept getting phone calls from her. So
I'm not interested in the phone calls.
I don't recall. I do not recall.
What was the adjourn date?
Well, I won the judgment on June 24th. And then I got a vacate the judgment order on September 15th that she refiled again. And I once again appeared in court and she was not there. So her judgment was dismissed.
Why not?
Just afraid of her. And I know that sounds silly, but you don't know the story that's behind this. I have to have a chance to explain why.
No. Listen, you tell me that you're afraid of her. To me, if you're afraid of somebody, then you don't create situations like coming to court where you both have to be together over a couple of dollars. Your original suit was just for a few $100s.
That's right.
I mean, if you were actually afraid of her, what you would have said was, I want to drop the whole thing. I don't want to see her. I don't want to be in the same room with her. Nothing. But instead, it appears to me that on now 4 occasions, you have filed actions requiring her to appear, and you've not appeared.
Because if she won, if I won, I was afraid what she would do to me if I won, because she told me what she would do on many occasions.
So why didn't you?
So I let it go.
Your Honor,
Just a minute. You didn't let it go. If you let it go, you wouldn't have written and requested a continuance.
Your Honor,
Jump. You're winning. Be quiet.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, I acted in a very cowardly manner. I was afraid of her.
Just a second. Didn't you think it was going to be frustrating every time you had a court date? If you didn't show up because, as you said, you were afraid of her, and she went to court because you never notified her you weren't going to court. If she went to court, don't you think that would make her just a tad angry?
A little bit, yes.
Well, if you really didn't want to exacerbate the situation and make her more angry with you, you wouldn't have done anything to make her even more frustrated because she took a morning, an afternoon, an evening to go to court.
Your Honor, you know, she took a whole evening to come to my home with 2 police officers and a video camera. They searched my home, saying I stole her cat, I stole her dog. I mean, this went on and on and on.
No, let me tell you something. The more you're talking to me, the more it's coming crystal clear to me that this course of conduct was designed to frustrate her. And that belies the fact that you tell me that you were afraid of her. Because if you're afraid of somebody, what you try to do is you try to stay as far away from them as possible. That's if you're normal. Now, you may have had good reason to feel frightened by her. You may have. I'm not getting into that, because quite frankly, I'm not interested. But your actions don't say that. Your actions say, I'm going to give it to her, as my grandfather would say.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
I'm not satisfied with your answers because, quite frankly, not only am I frustrated for her, but I'm frustrated for courts who have to sit and listen to this and have people who are waiting to have their cases heard, and they can't have their cases heard because the judge has to sit and listen to a case, and then it's the judgment is set aside because they get a letter from you that you had surgery and you couldn't come to court, which is really untrue. Because you were at work? Because you were at work at the time that you said you couldn't come to court? Baloney. Look, how many hours did you spend in court?
Well, I had to take a day off of work. I work in Monterey Park, so...
On each of those 4 occasions?
Correct.
What's a day's pay?
About $150 a day. I have a pay stub.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. Don't abuse the courts to settle disputes. Don't abuse the courts. Use the courts, but don't abuse them, madam. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor. You may step out. I'll back to your right, please.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
She never gave me cash.
Love with the wrong personal trainer.
Wouldn't you think that someone had an infatuation for me?
Looking at you standing there, not a chance in hell.
Judge Judy Justice.
To everybody out there, be careful who you rent to because they might lie.
She never let me explain the horror that I lived with this woman and what she put me through when she brought her lover in to live with her. They stole from me, they trashed my room, they took my parking space, and I would not begin to tell you what they did to my dog. It's ludicrous.
She was not allowed to have a dog in the house that we rented. I was not around when the dog was around. I never touched her, pushed her, assaulted her. She's just a scary woman, and she needs to be stopped.
Everybody's on Steak versus Martin. Step forward, please.
41-year-old Gina Stake says she loaned her car to her 19-year-old son, Paul, who got drunk with Jamal, the 19-year-old son of Queenie Martin. Jamal wrecked the car, and Gina says Queenie should pay for the damage.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 229 on the calendar in the matter of Stake versus Martin. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, sir. Have a seat.
Oh, no. Come up here, gentlemen. This is your son, Mrs. Stake.
Yes, it is.
And Miss Martin, this is your son.
Yes, it is.
How lovely for you both. Miss Stake, you had a rental car. You let your son drive the car. He was with his friends. My reading of these papers suggests to me that both of these idiots got drunk. He drove the car right into a pole. Right?
Correct.
You think his mom, because he's a minor, should pay for the damage to the car.
Correct.
His mom says that you know your son drinks and you shouldn't have given him the car. That's your position.
That's correct.
So that you are not responsible for the damage.
Right.
Before I ask you two ladies to sit down, I'd like just for you to give me the bills for the car, and then I'm going to deal with the young men.
This is the
So the amount that you had to pay was $5,878.43.
That's the balance of it. My insurance paid $4,900.
But this is just the balance?
Correct.
Why don't you two ladies have a seat for a moment? I'll ask you to come back in a moment. Your first name is what, sir?
Paul.
Paul. And yours?
Jamal.
Now, Paul, tell me about how your mother, it came about that you asked your mother to borrow the car for the evening.
Well, it was, we all wanted to go out. He called me up. He said, what's up on the night? And I said, nothing, and got this rental car, and, you know, he wanted to go kick it. So I was like, all right, fine. You know, I told him I didn't have no money. He said, come on now, this is Jamal.
Could you keep your voice up and try to speak slowly?
Oh, okay. He was like, come on now, this is Jamal. So I was like, all right. So he wanted to get drunk. Well, we all wanted to get drunk. So he went and bought the drink. Then after a while, we went to my...
Just a minute. So you went to your mother, and you said to your mother what?
Well, actually, she already gave me the car. She already let me use the car.
That day?
Yeah. But
what did she say when she gave you the car?
She was like, be careful. And I said, okay.
That sounds right. You said, be careful?
Yes.
So right after your mother said, be careful, you and this genius over here decided to use the car and to go and get some booze and drink, right?
Right.
And where did you decide to do that?
At my sister's house.
Your sister's house? How old is your sister?
Well, she is about 19 now.
So you decided to go to your 19-year-old sister's house with Jamal over here and how many other people?
Just one more person, my best friend.
Now, were you drinking before you got to your sister's house? Is not an answer in court.
No.
No is an answer. So what happened at your sister's house?
Well, I said, let's leave, you know, because he got into an argument with my sister and everybody else in the house. So I said, you know, let's leave. But by that time we decided to leave, we was already toe up. We were already drunk.
What was the word he used first? Toe up.
Toe up.
Okay, go ahead.
And so, you know, I was too intoxicated to drive, but I still said, let's go. But I wasn't going to leave just right away after I said, let's go. I was going to stay there and wait until I got sobered up. But he was like, no, you too drunk. He tried to take the keys from me. I was struggling with him because I was going to throw them to my best friend across the street. But he already got the keys from me because I was too intoxicated to hold on to the keys. But I still remember that. And after that, he just got into the car. I don't remember how I got into the car. That's the only thing I don't remember. But we got into it.
If you don't remember how you got into the car, you must have been 3 sheets to the wind. Did you ever hear that expression? 3 sheets to the wind?
Nah. No.
No.
So...
No. Toe up, you know.
Go ahead. So now you're in a car. You don't know how you got there because you were
Toe up.
drunk as a skunk. Right?
Yes.
What do you remember next, Paul?
All I remember is you know, I hear the car going, and next thing I know, I hear him and my best friend in the back arguing, telling him to slow down. And I did wake up and say, slow down, and then I went back.
That you remember. You don't know how you got into the car, but you remember saying, slow down.
I do remember that.
Okay. And the next thing you know, you were dancing with a pole.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
They're two idiots.
I agree with that. And the mother is an idiot as well.
Excuse me?
And later today,
Just a second. A bunch of guys went fishing to celebrate his wife being pregnant?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Gina Stake is suing Jamal Martin's mother, Queenie, because Jamal wrecked her car. Queenie says she's not responsible, claiming Jamal only drove the car because Gina's son Paul was too drunk to drive.
Jamal!
Yes.
Let's hear from you.
Okay. On September 13th, I called him and asked him.
Let's do this. You were in his sister's house drinking.
We were outside drinking.
I stand corrected. You were outside drinking.
Mm-hmm.
What were you drinking?
A bottle of Tanqueray.
Tanqueray. That's
Yes.
vodka?
Gin.
Gin. Thank you.
Water.
All right, so you all get towed up. Tow up?
Toe up.
Tow up. You all get tow up, and you got into the car.
Yes.
And what happened?
While we were outside, I was talking to a friend, and I heard some yelling. When I turned around, Paul and his friend Jacoby were arguing about who was going to drive home. Now, I already knew that Paul had passed out, so I walked over to him and told him to give me the keys. There was an incident months before where he had gotten drunk, and I had drove him home before, and his mother had thanked me for it the next day.
Were you drunk
No.
then?
No, I wasn't.
Yes, but you were drunk that evening.
Yes, I was.
So you
I
got
was-
behind the car, the wheel of the car,
Yes,
drunk,
yes,
and hit a pole,
yes,
and totaled the car.
yes.
How old are you?
19.
How old are you?
18.
You go to school?
Yes.
You work after school?
No, not anymore.
Why?
Well, they had to let me go because I had to rephase a class. And
You had to what?
Rephase a class. That's taking the class over.
Why?
Because it was hard and I didn't understand it, so I had to take it over.
What about you?
No, I'm working right now.
Oh, good. That's good.
Thank you.
Now I'll have the mother's back. Consider yourselves both really lucky. I assume you do. You look like two absolutely lovely women.
Thank you.
Lovely, responsible women who really shouldn't be here today because they're too big to beat, for want of a better word. So you got to beat them financially in order to teach them a lesson, both of them. Because I agree with you that this young man is partially responsible for this bill. So is he. You agree?
I agree.
He had no business getting behind the wheel of a car.
That's true.
So he's got to pay.
I also agree, however, though, that Miss Stake is also at fault.
If she knew that her son had driven before drunk,
right,
and she was hoping it would not recur, is that right?
I agree.
Then she's partially responsible. He's going to pay half of this bill.
And what portion is Miss Stake going to pay?
Oh, that half. That half, because it's going to take him a long time collecting cans or doing whatever he does to come up with $2,800, $2,900,
Okay.
which is what we're talking about. Bottom line is, he was the one who could have killed himself, the passengers in the car, Instead of hitting a pole, he could have hit.
But who made
someone crossing the street with their baby carriage
This was
instead
3
of a
o'clock
pole.
in the morning. This was 3 o'clock in the morning.
So what? Are you trying to make an excuse for him?
No, I'm just saying that no
Don't
baby,
make
no one
any
in a baby
excuse for
carriage.
him.
I am not making an excuse. I
So
have
if it
told
wasn't
him.
a baby carriage, if it was somebody
But I
coming home
understand
from a
what you're
3
saying.
o'clock shift working that was crossing the street that he could have killed because he's an idiot.
Right, I understand that.
All right, good. So let's not make any excuses. I don't like excuses for one's children. When they do something stupid, you're supposed to say, my kid did something stupid.
And that's exactly what I'm saying, Your
Perfect.
Honor.
Then he's going to
But
pay
I'm also
half.
saying that I feel that my son was a minor at the time. Her son was over 18. Yes, I am responsible for my child. Her son, who was working at the time, is responsible for himself. Right. Now, she sent me a letter saying that to split the difference. I sent her a letter back saying, because I feel that you are at fault as well as your son and the other gentleman in the car, I feel that the greatest burden should be paid by her and the 3 boys should split the remaining difference.
I see it differently. I see it big time differently, and I'm going to tell you why. But for the actions of your son, it is possible that that car would not have been driven that night. He didn't have to take the keys to the car and drive it. He could have said, I'm going back in the house and calling my mother and having her come and pick me up because I'm not going to drive this car while I'm drunk. If they want to act like fools and drive the car, that's none of my business. Then you wouldn't be standing here
Exactly.
today.
Also,
No, just a second. They're 2 idiots.
I agree with that. And the
All
mother
right.
is an idiot as well.
Excuse me?
I'm saying, had she not commended him, her undermining what I'm teaching my child by saying, yes, Jamal, you did a good thing driving my son home when he was drunk, maybe he wouldn't have drove this time. I'm not making an excuse, but I'm saying...
You are making an excuse,
No,
madam.
I'm not.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Like I said, this is all funny to me. There's no person in this world like me. I can overcome anything in this world at all, anything.
And later today,
Tom had been consenting to drinking and driving.
Mr. Jackson, you were blotto drunk.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Miss Martin, she said to you in her letter, split the difference with me because I am prepared to accept part of the responsibility for giving my son the car. She didn't say to you, your son was driving, therefore he's got to pay the difference. She said, I'm prepared to split the difference with you. That's assuming, on her part, a certain responsibility for allowing her idiot to drive the car in the first place. Come on, get it together, madam. $2,900. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
The money, that's not nothing. I'm still going to live out my dreams and become the richest person in 5 years. So, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like I said, this is all funny to me. They can get their money all they want to, but once they see what I become in the future, I mean, they're going to feel bad because they're not a part of it.
Well, there's somebody lying big time.
Yeah, must be, because that's what he said.
And it sure ain't me lying either.
And now the next case.
All parties on Heasley versus Jackson. Step forward, please.
Tom Heasley is suing his former friend, Clark Jackson, for wrecking his truck during a drunken camping trip. Clark says Tom encouraged him to drive while intoxicated and should share the blame for the accident.
Mr. Heasley, you and a few friends, including the defendant, went on a fishing vacation. Now, tell me about this fishing vacation. Who went on the fishing vacation?
Jesse Mobley, who's my witness, I went, and Clark Jackson went. We decided to go up to Rock Creek Lake to do some trout fishing to celebrate Jesse's wife being pregnant. So
Just a second. A bunch of guys went fishing to celebrate his wife being pregnant?
He had the choice of what we were going to do.
What's your name?
Jesse Mobley.
You must have a very understanding wife, Jesse.
Oh, yeah.
Lucky you. So you went trout fishing, got some liquor?
We brought up some beer. Clark purchased a pony keg to bring up for the second night.
Pony keg?
Yeah, 5 gallons of alcohol for our last night there.
Mr. Heasley, let's get to the truth of it. Everybody was pretty drunk, and he took your truck.
The night he took my trunk, all of us had had a decent amount of alcohol.
Okay. Now, how did you get behind the wheel of this truck? Tell me about it.
Well, Your Honor, we had gone up to the store the night before and gotten some firewood, and we went back to the campsite that night, and we drank a couple more beers, and we started a campfire. I went to sleep, and they burned all the firewood that night, 5 bundles of firewood. The next night, I went to go light another fire, and I realized there wasn't any firewood, and I said, well, I'll go get some. Tom, you want to go with me? And he said, no, I don't want to go. I asked Jesse. Jesse said, no, he doesn't want to go. So I said, okay, fine, I'll go get it myself.
And you had been drinking?
Yes, I had been. It was a bad judgment error, and...
Is that what happened?
Not even close.
So tell me your version of what happened.
Clark jumped in the truck without permission before Jesse and I could protest from the back of the campsite, said, I'm going to the store, jumped in, and was gone. And I waited. This was a night where he had drank quite a bit. We all had. But none of us, Jesse and I were not anywhere near as drunk as Clark was. We weren't stumbling around the campsite. We weren't driving.
Okay, so he jumped in the car. And then when was the next time you saw him?
The next time I saw him was when I decided to put on my jacket and walk up to the store because he'd been gone for an hour and a half. I met the highway patrol coming down. It's documented here. They said, Tom, your truck has been totaled. We're taking Clark down for DUI.
Which they did.
Which they did.
Now, tell me about this truck that you have. How old is it?
It's an 88 Ford Bronco. I just purchased it for $4,900.
You have proof of the purchase price of this truck for me?
Yes.
Can I have it, please? Now, Mr. Jackson, while I'm looking at that, sir, why do you feel as if you're not responsible for his truck?
Basically, Your Honor, previously, well, the entire trip up there, Tom had been consenting to drinking and driving. Everywhere we went, we were drinking. On the way up there, Tom was sitting in the back seat of the Bronco handing us the alcohol.
How old are you, sir?
I am 22.
Not true.
There comes a point, sir, that you have to be totally and completely responsible for what you do.
Yes, ma'am, I do understand that. But he did give me consent earlier that day by saying, you are welcome to drive my truck anytime this weekend. You're a very good driver. I know you can handle it.
Mr. Jackson, you were blotto drunk.
Yes, ma'am, I do understand that.
You mean you think he should have said to you, you have permission to drive my truck unless you're blotto drunk?
Your Honor, there was never a point in time where that drinking and driving was an issue.
Well, it was an issue when you wrecked his truck.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. 28-year-old Tom Heasley says while on a camping trip with his buddies, Clark Jackson wrecked his truck.
You destroyed his truck. Were you able to salvage any part of it?
None of all the salvage fees went for the tow fee, $1,000 to have it towed out of the canyon. Where
and you had no insurance?
Just minimal insurance.
What kind of, what's minimal?
Look
at me, sir.
Okay.
What kind of minimal insurance?
Just theft and collision.
Did your insurance pay anything towards the car, is what I want to know.
Not a dime. I did not receive a dime.
What was your blood alcohol on that day, sir?
Ma'am, it was .14.
So did you plead guilty to DUI?
I am in the process, yes.
Okay. Easy. Don't drink and drive.
Yes, ma'am.
And if you're 22 years old and old enough to get behind the wheel of a car, that you have to know. Don't blame anybody else. It's nobody else's fault but yours. You get behind the wheel of a car and you're drunk, you're just lucky you didn't kill yourself or, more importantly, somebody else.
Yes,
judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,900. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. I'll back up to you right there.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I thought I had pretty good friends for a minute. I wanted to try and pay for the truck to salvage our friendship, but as you can tell, it wasn't possible. I had a really good friend over here, Jesse Mobley, basically ruined my life.
Party's on Calvo versus Calvo. Step forward, please.
38-year-old Olga Calvo says her brother, 40-year-old administrator Alberto Calvo, sold her car with parts of her husband's wheelchair inside. Alberto says it was towed away.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Sir. Try to stay awake. Judge, this is number 243 on the calendar in the matter of Calvo versus Calvo. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mrs. Calvo, this is your brother?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, you and your family were the victims of an armed robbery. And because of the fear that you had staying in your home where the robbery occurred, you called your brother, and he came over, and you moved into his house, or the garage in his house. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Your suit alleges that when you moved out, you left an old car in front of your brother's house.
That's right.
In the old car were some parts to your husband's wheelchair.
Right.
And when you came back to retrieve it, it was gone. So you believe he sold it.
That's right.
What makes you think he sold it?
Well, when I went back to get the car, I called, and his son said that it was there, but then they came to the motel, and he said it was gone. It was no longer there. He said they impounded the car. But when I called the police, they said it wasn't at the city or the county, so that nobody had it.
Could it have been stolen?
It could have, but he said that it was just gone, that a tow truck took it.
After your brother offered his home to you, why do you think that he would do something like sell your car?
Well, I just want to know where the car was. I needed the car to get around because I have a crippled husband and 2 children. And when I called from the motel, my nephew said, okay, your car's here. But then when they came to the motel, they said it was gone. I don't know. I don't understand where the car is.
You mean on the same day?
Within 5 minutes.
Did you move out of your brother's home on reasonable terms?
Yes, ma'am.
You had never had any problem with your brother before?
No.
Huh. No problem with me?
Shh. Don't talk to her. Don't talk to me. Well, Miss Calvo, my problem is I don't understand what would make you think that your brother, who had been nothing but nice to you and your family, would do something like, what year car was this?
An 87.
Would sell your 11-year-old car that probably wasn't worth much, right?
Well, I had just paid, my father bought it for me. He paid $800 for it, plus a van that we traded in. Plus the wheelchair parts is what was expensive. It's a $7,500 wheelchair. I have a picture of the wheelchair that my husband...
Why didn't you leave the wheelchair parts someplace other than a car that was going to be parked outside for 5 weeks?
We had a lot of things, all our belongings, we were moving.
Parts of that wheelchair were at a pawn shop. Part of it were under a beer case of beer.
Where?
In the garage.
Is it still there?
It's a very expensive wheelchair. Her husband is an invalid. He had a stroke, and he has to have a very expensive wheelchair to get around.
Well, then what were the parts to?
That's what I want to know. How can a person be so irresponsible, Your Honor? Forgive me for this interruption, but if the wheelchair is so expensive, why would anyone leave parts scattered here and there?
Because those parts were detachable, and we had sometimes we had to move the wheelchair. We would just move the main part, and some parts just happened to stay in the trunk.
What do you know about this car, Mr. Calvo?
What I know about a car is that according to the city ordinances, you cannot leave any vehicle parked in front of a residential street for a certain period of time, Your Honor, which is why the car is no longer there. When she appeared in Houston to retrieve her vehicle, it was not there, and it could not be there.
How do you know it could not be there?
Because it was removed. I don't know who took it.
Well, when did you first see that it was gone?
About a week, maybe a week and a half before she decided to come up unannounced.
It had been there for about a month then?
Yes, 5 weeks. At the 6th week is when she came unannounced, as I say, called my son on the telephone and said, tell your dad that I'm here to pick up the car, which is her first mistake. You don't make any kind of arrangements with minors, never. You talk to an adult. Talked to my 11-year-old son and told him, tell your dad that I'm going to go pick up the car.
He's 18.
That's besides the point. You're supposed to talk to me on things like that.
Okay,
It's a very
whatever.
serious matter.
She spoke to one of your children.
That's right. And I've told him, do never make arrangements with an adult. You're not an adult.
She wasn't making arrangements. She said, I'm coming to pick up my car. Did you have your sister's telephone number where she was living?
Yes, Your Honor, we did.
Did you call her and let her know that her car had been moved?
No, I did not.
Why not?
It's not my responsibility, Your Honor.
So you were angry with your sister when she left?
Of course I was angry with her.
When she left?
That's right.
Why were you angry with her when she left?
Because of her behavior.
Like what?
Irresponsible behavior, reckless behavior, abandonment.
Of what?
Of her responsibilities. Many of these things would not have occurred to her had she been a person of serious character, Your Honor. But some of her choice of friends is not very good.
He's going off the track.
Oh, you say that you left under good circumstances. I'm trying to figure out why your brother...
Because he's money hungry. He always has been. He wants money. What else? Why would he sell my car? He knew I didn't have a car.
Well, but I don't know
did not sell the car, Your Honor.
Where is it?
It's gone. It's probably smashed into a box about the cube, about that
do
small.
you have the registration for this car?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
You have the registration for this car. So if he sold the car, he would have had to have forged some sort of a document of sale. Do you understand that, Ms. Calvo?
You can sell cars without registration.
How?
People buy them all the time.
Well, did you sell it without a registration?
No, I didn't sell it without registration. Or with, or without. But I'm telling you that it has been done.
That's helpful. I'm sure it has been done. But it's illegal.
Of course.
How old are you, sir?
40 years old.
Have you ever been in jail?
Yes.
For what?
Traffic tickets.
How long were you in jail for traffic tickets?
Oh, about 24 hours.
Traffic tickets that you didn't pay?
That's right.
Where there were outstanding warrants?
That's right.
When did that happen?
Oh, what's last year, 97?
Prior to that?
I can't remember prior to that.
You can't remember whether you were in jail
I can't remember the year.
But you were in jail prior to that. For what?
For the same thing.
Traffic tickets.
Traffic tickets.
What do you have against paying traffic tickets?
Nothing. When the bills mount up so high, you know, economically it becomes impossible.
When you get them, you're supposed to pay them. That way they don't pile up.
That's a very good fact.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
They were not there the day that I left.
What does that have to do with anything?
Who could I
You didn't
leave the
entrust
keys to? Throw them in the tree and just let them hang there? I mean, I had to give
Then
them
you sue the tree.
And later today.
And Mr. Connors then was taking a shower every 8 days, and the toothbrush got wet every 5 days.
Then you left.
The police took him out.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Olga Calvo claims her brother, Alberto Calvo, sold her car with parts of her husband's wheelchair inside.
Miss Calvo.
Yes, ma'am.
This is sad, but not a difficult case. You believe that your brother sold your car.
Yes.
He says he didn't sell your car. He's not responsible for your car because you left it out in the street, right?
Yes.
You didn't leave him with any of the indicia of ownership, license, registration. And in order for me to believe your theory that he sold it, I would have to believe that he broke the law in selling the car because he sold it, and he had no right to do that because he wasn't the legal owner of the car. So in order to believe you, I have to believe that your brother committed a criminal act. Right?
But I left the car in his care.
Did she leave the keys with you?
She left that car telling my younger son, who is 16, that he can have the car.
That's a
just a second.
Blunt-faced lie.
Just a second. Did he, in fact, your 16-year-old son, take the car?
No, he cannot take the car.
Now, according to you, you did not entrust the keys to the car, if I believed you, to the defendant. You entrusted the keys to the car to his son.
The 18-year-old son.
Whatever. 16, 18.
Okay.
18 doesn't help you out a lot.
Okay.
16 might help you out a little bit, but not 18. So you left the car keys with an 18-year-old.
Yes, ma'am.
It is possible that the 18-year-old sold the car. Is that possible?
It's possible, but I doubt it.
But it's possible.
It's possible.
No,
It's
I don't
possible.
appreciate-
Shh. I'm not speaking to you.
Well, I don't appreciate.
I'm not speaking to you. Is it possible that the 18-year-old has the car?
It's possible.
Well, Miss Calvo, if all those things are possible, how can I ultimately find in your favor with regard to your lawsuit against this defendant?
Because I entrusted it to him.
No, you didn't, Miss Calvo. You entrusted it to someone else.
Well, the reason that happened was because they were not there the day that I left.
What does that have to do with anything?
Who could I
You didn't
leave the keys
entrust
to? Throw them in the tree and just let them hang there? I mean, I had to give
Then
them
you sue the tree if you throw it in a tree. But right now, you didn't entrust the keys to Mr. Calvo. You entrusted them, according to you, to some 18-year-old, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you're suing the wrong person if you have a lawsuit at all. This case is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
Well, I think I should have left the keys with one of the adults, and I didn't, so there's no hard feelings.
I'm sorry that she had a traumatic experience. If you would have been there, you would have seen how much she suffered. But she must learn responsibility.
It's okay.
And now the next case.
Parties on Clift versus Connor. Step forward, please.
73-year-old Maddie Cliff is suing her ex-husband, Paul Connors, 65, for the cost of a bed and her share of a joint bank account.
Miss Clift, the defendant is your former husband.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you marry him?
May 95.
And how long did you live together?
Not quite 2 years.
You're suing him for a bid and for part of a joint bank account.
Yes, Your Honor.
Tell me about the bid.
The night we were married, came home, and it started right that night. And I asked him what was wrong. He said nothing. There's 2 women at the wedding who has eyes for me. I'm tired, good night. He left and went to bed. I slept in the bedroom for a little while, and not very long. If I accidentally touched him, he kicked me. Then there came a time where he slept, got on top of the bed, of the bedspread, if he was out mowing the lawn, and after a few days, it was a whole gray outline on top of the bedspread. I said, it's so much easier to do the sheets, pull the bedspread down. He wouldn't do it. And he would go across the bed so I couldn't get in. So I slept on the floor for 6 weeks with 2 bedspreads. That's all I had. We went out on our anniversary to Rhode Island for shrimp. And because we had a medley of shrimp, I thought I had food poisoning, because right after that, I couldn't move. I was hurting so bad, I didn't know what was wrong with me. I wasn't able to sleep. And finally, I couldn't stand the floor no longer. It was so painful. And Mr. Connors then was taking a shower every 8 days, and the toothbrush got wet every 5 days. He'd sit in front of the TV.
So you bought a bed for you to sleep in, is that
No, he didn't.
No, you bought a bed for you to sleep in.
I put it in the living room so I could sleep.
So you bought yourself a bed while you were married and you slept in the living room?
Yes.
Now, when you left him, he says you took this bed with you.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's get to the joint bank account. How much money did you put into this joint account?
I think at the time, I was getting $632, but then I went on his insurance, so I was getting $712.
So you're talking about your Social Security?
Yes.
So
And a
you
small
put your
pension.
Social Security into a joint account, and he put his Social Security into a joint account.
Yes.
And from that, you paid household bills.
I bought all my own food.
No, I'm not talking about food. I'm talking about, you lived in a mobile home? Was that purchased or was it leased?
We purchased it.
So was the mortgage payment made from this joint account?
Yes.
And you had gas and electric and telephone?
Yes.
And all that was paid for out of the joint account?
For a while, yes. Well, yes.
Then you left?
I
Or
didn't leave.
separated? You separated?
The police took him out.
Police took him out?
Yep.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're in the golden years of your life. Have a good time. Stop dwelling in the past.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Maddie Cliff is suing her ex-husband, Paul Connors, for the cost of her bed and her share of a joint bank account.
Can I please see the judgment of divorce? The most important section of this says, the personal property of the marriage has been left out a word here, resolved, to the satisfaction of the parties. But the husband shall have his paint, alternator, and other personal property of the husband. The husband shall have access to the shed to remove his personal property, so stated in paragraph 8. You signed this?
Yes. This is the list he made.
I don't care about the list he made. You signed this, and if you weren't satisfied with it, you should not have signed it. But not only did you sign it, you were represented by an attorney when you signed it. Now, Mr. Khanna.
Yes, Your Honor.
You are counterclaiming because you say that when she moved out of the house, she took a whole bunch of property.
She took all the contents of the home, including down to the curtains and the curtain rods, everything within the home she took with her. And along with that, she had threatened and put a letter and sent a letter to my immediate family that was quite detrimental to me.
What kind of letter did she send to your
It's a
family?
5-page letter, Your Honor. I have a copy of it here with me.
Can I see it, please?
Certainly, Your Honor. This was sent to all my immediate family.
All right, well, Mr. Connors, this letter really just has a whole litany of complaints against you, that you were not a terrific husband, and also not very neat.
Yes, Your Honor.
And there was no need, Ms. Cliff, for you to send this kind of letter, airing the grievances that you had with regard to your former husband to any of his family. It is not actionable. I mean, the fact that you got chocolate all over the furniture and left crumbs all over the place, and what happened in the bedroom certainly was nobody's business but the two of you. And this was a mistake. Clearly, it was a mistake. I mean, the two of you, probably very nice people who tried to have another relationship, and it just didn't work out. Put a period and get on with your lives. You know, you're in the golden years of your life. Have a good time. Stop dwelling in the past.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
I'm dismissing your complaint. I'm dismissing your counterclaim. Go out, enjoy the rest of your lives, hopefully in peace and separately from each other.
He took all the checking account. Why?
Listen to me. Your judgment of divorce provided in paragraph 8 that all issues of personal property were resolved by the parties. I do not intend to revisit that issue. The Superior Court of the state of Massachusetts ruled on that in a document that you signed and your attorney signed. If you're not happy about it, go back to your attorney. Say to your attorney, I was under duress, it was fraud, whatever it is, I want you to reopen my divorce. But I'll tell you now, Miss Clift, you don't have a snowball's chance in hell, because every other part of this judgment of divorce that I went through was complied with by him. And you're complaining about one of them, the personal property, and I'm telling you that I am not revisiting that. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
God will get him.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's going to suffer.
And on the next Judge Judy.
Your wife works for your father and you do nothing.
I do help him out, but he doesn't pay me, he pays her.
All designed to avoid your child support.
No.
I think I was born yesterday.
Judge Judy Justice.
He'll get his. And I'm the third woman he's done this to. The first one died.
Judge Judy had a picture of me that she put in my mailbox that had a crossbone in my forehead and an axe in my head.
He's a chronic liar. He has a problem.
I had gone out earlier in the evening, and she physically nailed the door shut instead of just turning the little knob on the door.
He's got some real nasty hygiene problems. He really is nasty.
Party's on Lowe versus Lowe. Step forward, please.
45-year-old Thomas Lowe says he met his 23-year-old Filipino wife, Arlene Rowe, when he answered an ad in an international dating magazine. Thomas says when his new bride came to live with him in the United States, she charged a fortune in long-distance phone calls back to the Philippines. The marriage ended in divorce, and now he wants her to pay the phone bill.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is number 173 on the calendar in the matter of Lowe versus Lowe. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
This is your former wife.
Yes.
And while usually the background of a couple's courtship, etc., is usually not germane to the issues of the case, I think that in this case it is. How did you meet your wife, sir?
Through correspondence. A friend of mine told me that about it. He had met a wife overseas, and I tried it myself, and I wrote to Arlene, and she wrote back to me.
How did you get her name to write to her?
It was through a magazine that this gentleman informed me of. His name was Cherry Blossoms, and I wrote to her there, and several other ladies, too.
Did you advertise in this magazine?
My friend advertised on me in there.
Your friend advertised for you? Okay. So you began to correspond, and then what happened?
She said she was about to go overseas to take a job, and at that particular time, we had been corresponding for a year. And
Where was she living at the time?
In the Philippines. And I told her I was going to come to see her and not to go, that I asked her to marry me, and she agreed.
This was before you met her?
We had been corresponding. I told her I was going to go see her,
But before you met her, you told her that you wanted to marry her?
Yes, and that's why I was going to the Philippines to see her.
You wanted to marry him?
Yeah, but before he told me about that, I was supposed to have, like, my visa is already ready. Then I told him I have to go because I have my responsibility for my sister. So he told me, and he called to my mom, and he talked to my dad. Then he told to my dad that tell him not to go. I will be responsible for all his responsibility.
For all of your
Yeah, my visa
expenses.
is ready already. Then he told me to not to go.
How old are you?
I'm 23 right now.
How old are you?
45.
How old was she when you began this correspondence, Mr. Lowe?
I do believe she was 20.
Didn't you think she was a little young for you?
Oh, yes, I wrote and told her so. And she wrote back and told me no, she wasn't.
Well, you should have been older and wiser, sir.
Yes.
Because the thrust of your complaint is that while you're divorced now, she ran up phone bills in the amount of $3,400 to her mother.
Yes.
But he used my mom. Before that, he told to my mom and my sister because he's working with him.
You mean your family was working with him?
Yeah, like they're working with him.
What kind of
that's
work?
Why, because they have a correspondence. We have correspondence businesses. Then, like, my mom was the one who's handling his business in the Philippines.
What kind of business?
It's like correspondence services.
Correspondence services?
Yes,
what
ma'am.
kind of correspondence services?
It's called Romance International.
What?
It's called Romance International. I developed my own service and run it on the internet.
Romance International?
Yes, run it on the internet. But, Your Honor, I did not call them for that. I sent them the pamphlets and everything in the mail.
But he told me it's okay to call to my mom. And, like, you accept, not only my mom, you accept the collect calls from your agent that I talk to them.
Miss Lowe, did you talk to your mother a lot?
Yeah, I talked to my mom.
Did you talk to her for a long time?
No.
When you would call her or when she would call you collect to talk to you, just stay on the phone for a half hour? Sometimes longer?
Yeah. If I talk to him, if I talk to my mom, he talked to...
But mostly you talk to her?
Yes.
What happened when you started to get these big phone bills? Did he complain?
Yeah, he told me, but I pay for the phone bill when I started working. Then he told me I didn't pay for it. The first salary that I got from here, I pay for his phone bill. But he don't give me any money.
Mr. Lowe.
Yes.
What makes you think that I should order her to pay you money for this phone bill?
Well, first of all, Your Honor, she agreed when I was first initially going to take the phone out to pay for just the international phone calls. I didn't ask her to pay for anything else, just her phone calls and calls she made to the psychic for $195. That was all she was supposed to pay for. I gave her money every week, which I have records of, that went to the bank, which was taken out in the Philippines. So money was given to them every week for her responsibility, even when I was not married to her. When she agreed to marry me, I took care of her responsibilities in the Philippines. But in order to keep the phone on, she promised to pay just the international phone bills. That's all I asked. She never had to pay any other bills at the house.
Okay, so she didn't. So you got a divorce?
Yes. Well, no, the problem with the divorce was I wanted to move to Brentwood, and mother told her no, she couldn't move to Brentwood with me, and she had to work her $4.25 an hour job. I was trying to get her a job paying $12 an hour, $15 an hour. I was ready to send her to school. I had taken out a $28,000 loan to take her to school, and the mother told her she couldn't go to school, she had to work.
No, my mom didn't told that. You want me to send to school. Then like when they interview me, then they told me I have to study like three years to pay $38,000. But you told them that, okay, after you finish your school, you're gonna pay me. I have to pay that for the rest of my life for $38,000.
So what you did you tell her that she was going to have to pay back the tuition?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Lowe.
The whole thing was I would have taken out the loan for the thing, and I was very willing to do that.
Mr. Lowe, you married a baby.
Your Honor, when I first married her, she did not strike me as a baby.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I'm trying to be good in sex, but it takes time.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Arlene Rose says when she came from the Philippines to marry Thomas, a man she met by placing an ad in a dating magazine, he treated her horribly and quickly divorced her. Now he's suing her for long-distance phone calls she made to her family.
In my untrained eyes, sir, this looks like a May-December romance.
Yes.
Did you ever hear that expression?
Yes.
And sometimes men marry women and they're very extravagant. They go out and they spend all their husband's money on jewelry and furs and manicures and pedicures and hats. Do women still buy hats? No.
Yeah.
No.
They do.
Your child bride called her mother a lot.
No, her mother called her.
Or her mother called her a lot. Because she evidently needed to talk to her family, very far away from her family. That's what happens when you marry somebody who's very young.
No, Your Honor, the reason they called was because her family kept getting into financial problems.
But you know that. You already know all my responsibilities.
Listen, Miss Lowe, I gather from your answer that you feel as if you have a very strong responsibility to family, even your family in the Philippines. What's supposed to happen when you get married is you're not supposed to necessarily lose that allegiance to your family, but you and your husband create your own unit. You have a mother in the Philippines, you have a father in the Philippines?
Yeah.
Yes? You have sisters?
Yes.
You have brothers?
Yes.
They're supposed to take care of themselves. That's not his responsibility.
Yeah, he told me that's not his responsibility.
It's not. And it's not your responsibility. You're a baby, 20 years old. You got a mother, your father, brothers, sisters, everybody else in the Philippines. All of a sudden, because you got married, you married somebody who maybe had an extra couple of bucks, that doesn't make your family in the Philippines your financial responsibility. When you're married, this is your financial responsibility, but you're not married anymore. I'm just telling you that for the future, because otherwise you're going to be a very unhappy lady the next time you get married. You can't.
I didn't tell him to responsibility for my family. I told him I have to send my sister on school. So that's my responsibility.
Why do you have to send your sister to school?
Because I'm the second to the eldest.
And what about your mother and father?
They work a lot for my brothers and sisters. And like that time my father are sick, so I have to go to work.
So
and
what
like
you're
he
telling
knows
me
all
is,
all of that.
so what you're telling me is,
shh,
that you had to work here and send money back to your family in the Philippines? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I came here as to his wife, to be his wife. I came here 6 months. I worked for him. In American Embassy, he told that even I came here, I still receive any salary from his business, but I don't get any single penny. He gave me $10, $20. The first time he gave me is $20. And the last one before we leave, he gave me only $10. And like he told me, I always stay in the house. I work for him, I work for his business. I only sleep for 4 hours to work in his business. Then like, I don't get anything. I work, I clean the house, I do everything. And like I told him, he have 1 week salary for $1,000 or $2,000. Then I work for 2 weeks to $200, $300. But I give him all my first salary. So I told him, did I ask you any money from your salary? I didn't even touch your money. Even we have joint account.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Arlene Rose says when she came from the Philippines to marry Thomas, a man she met by placing an ad in a dating magazine, he treated her horribly and quickly divorced her. Now he's suing her for long-distance phone calls she made to her family.
Mr. Lowe, you made a mistake.
Yes.
I believe that your former wife probably made a mistake. Is it your intention to go back to the Philippines? Or are you going to stay here in the United States?
I have to move on to my life. That's all I want.
So what do you want to do? Where do you want to live?
I have to settle all my problem here.
What kind of problems do you have here, Miss Lowe? Other than this one is I'm going to make a non-problem for you. What other problems do you have?
About the status I have
You mean your visa status?
Yes, Mom.
Do you want to stay in the United States or do you want to go home to the Philippines?
I don't know if I can survive. Maybe I'll survive because I work for 2 jobs. I work 7 days.
You
and
work
I
two jobs now?
Yes, Mom.
You send money home to your family?
Sometimes. But I have to settle all my bills.
What other bills do you have?
I have to pay for my lawyer.
Which
I
lawyer?
have to pay for my car and my insurance.
What lawyer do you have to pay for?
For my case.
You mean for your immigration case?
Yes, Mom.
Are you okay financially, Mr. Lowe?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
You think
well, actually, no, Your Honor. I've got, from our marriage, we've got major bills. We've got about $24,000 in back debt.
For what?
Some of it, a lot of it is mine. Then there's $9,000 between the tax stuff that I put off to help her family when I gave her money to help her family, $3,000, and put off paying taxes that I was supposed to pay the taxes
That's
with.
your problem. That's your problem.
Yes.
Mr. Lowe. I don't think she was, except for her phone bills, I don't think she was a very expensive lady to keep. Right?
No, Your Honor. I paid her a salary every week, and the records show I was putting $180 to $200 a week for her to send back home, and I have records for that.
Did you send back that money home?
No, because he owed my mom's money. Because when he sent some money from me, he told me that's my allowance as his wife. But I spent that money on his business. I told him about that.
Mr. Lowe, who initiated the divorce proceedings here in California?
She left the house, so I tried to reconcile with her. I initiated the divorce proceedings.
You got it. See how fast he's a quick study. And did you have anything in the divorce proceedings about this $3,400 debt?
Yes, Your Honor.
And
She
what
agreed
was
to
that?
pay for it. It's
Where-
a marital agreement.
Do you have that in writing?
Yes.
Can I see it, please?
This is the one.
Oh, she has it.
Oh, jeez.
When he gave that papers, he already signed the papers. Then the one that he told that to sign it, and I bring it to my lawyer, the second agreement. Because he changed the agreement that it says $3,400 to pay for 30 days. Then he want me to sign that papers.
Just a second. Is there another paper?
Yeah, we
That,
have
Your
another.
Honor, because of the first, we had the first original marriage agreement, and it wasn't notarized. That's why I have to come here now. And because it wasn't notarized, I had to get a second agreement done. I took that to her job. She said she had to go see her lawyer again with that. She never came back with that. We were forced to use the first agreement.
Let me see your judgment to divorce, sir.
This one.
She has it.
I want to see if it refers to the settlement agreement. Oh.
The first agreement wasn't notarized, Your Honor. That's why they could not use that agreement in the court. That's why I had to come to small claims court, because it wasn't notarized before the first of the year.
But Mr. Lowe, you have to understand something, sir. I like to see the right thing happen at the end of a case, because that's what I think that's supposed to happen in court. And if you show me an agreement and you say it's incorporated in your judgment to divorce, I have no choice, and I've explained that to your wife. I have no choice but to give you your judgment for $3,400, even though I don't feel good about it. I don't think she's, I don't think she's stupid, but I think that she was vulnerable, certainly more vulnerable than you are. So I feel sort of badly about having to make a judgment against her for $3,400, considering that she works 2 jobs and trying to maintain herself and send money home for her sister to go to school. I mean, that's hard. But now I have an out. Whew.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You say here, sir, we have no community assets or liabilities.
The second, yeah.
That's what it says here.
Community assets liability, yes.
That's what it says. You have no community assets or liabilities.
That was before, when we first signed that agreement, that was before all the taxes came. So that's when we tried to make the second agreement.
This is dated November 7th.
Yes.
This is dated in October.
Yes, I could not use the first one.
You can't use it?
That's because it wasn't notarized.
So it wasn't notarized, so what am I supposed to do?
That's why when I went to court, the judge said if I wanted to settle this, I had to then take her to small claims court.
Okay, so now, so it's not part of the judgment of divorce, so I'm not bound by another court's ruling.
No,
that
you're
it's
not.
part of another. All right, then that's very easy. Mr. Lowe, your wife is 23 years old?
Yes, Mom.
You're 45 years old. You're a man of the world. She's not. She was extravagant in the way she made phone calls. You have money, not a lot, probably, but certainly more than she does.
Yes,
That'd be a fair statement? I'm not going to burden her with another debt of $3,400. This case is dismissed.
All right, so excuse, you may step out.
And on the next Judge Judy.
It's terrible. My sex is terrible, and I don't have experience on bed. That's why.
I told her I would take her to see doctors if she wanted to talk to them with counseling. I had a Filipino sex therapist that was on the internet that I also had her in contact with. I did everything possible to help her overcome that part of her not knowing, being that familiar with what was supposed to be going on in the bedroom. I was very patient with her with that. So I figured we had plenty of time. After all, we're both Catholic. We had married in the church. I figured we had plenty of time to solve that.
I'm trying to be good in sex, but it takes time. Not only 1 year, 2 years, but because I never had sex with anyone. If I have, maybe I'll be good, but I'm not. He already destroyed my life.
Parties on Atkinson versus Cope. Step forward, please.
17-year-old Kelly Atkinson says she started dating Daniel Cope when she was only 15. Now broken up, she's suing him for money he took when they were lovers.
Order. All rise. Quiet, please. Judges number 278 on the calendar in the matter of Atkinson versus Cope. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
How old are you?
25.
Did you know how old she was when you started to date her?
Yes.
How old was she?
15.
And you were 23?
Yes, ma'am.
That's very dumb.
It's a lesson well learned.
Because in addition to everything else, it's a felony. Right?
Yes.
Now, Miss Atkinson, this is your mother?
Mm-hmm.
You're 17 now.
Yes, I am.
So this suit was really filed by you on behalf of your daughter. You say that you loaned him money.
Loaned him $2,000.
For what?
Repairs on his pickup truck. Bills that I paid for him.
Like what?
Gas and power. Very, very, very often, he would take me to the bank to get $20 out so he could get back and forth to work for a night. I have a copy of all my bank receipts for the time that we were dating.
Where did you meet him?
He is an old friend of mine's boyfriend's brother.
Yeah.
And we were just introduced one day, and we were friends for about 5 months, and then it went from there.
Did your mother know that you were dating him?
Yes, she did.
Did you think it was a good idea?
He wasn't like a normal 23-year-old. He was more like a 19-year-old. Seemed, and they were friends first.
That's not unusual. So he's 23 going on 19. And your daughter was 15 going on 16.
Yeah.
So you didn't think it was so terrible. Did you know that they were intimate?
Not for a long time, no.
So you took some money from her?
The loan was offered to me. What I did borrow from her, yes. Didn't take.
Well, tell me.
It was offered.
Right. And you took it?
It was offered
It was offered several times, and I did take it. Yes, I borrowed, yes.
Why?
Not $2,000.
How much?
$800.
Well, $800 in one lump sum.
Yes, ma'am.
We're talking about little bits at a time.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
All the withdrawals listed on there, there's only, I think, one deposit that I made for my birthday on April 8th. All the rest of the withdrawals were not from me personally using the money, but from him using the money.
You mean using it to go out on a date, maybe?
No, to take it and pay his bills, or to, for instance, I bought him a differential. He needed a differential. I loaned him the $150 as a deposit down on the differential for his...
Does that sound familiar?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I've been self-sufficient since I was 18 years old. I've paid all my bills. No. And no, she did not pay no gas, power, or electric bill. She loaned me, which was offered, $800, which I paid back. Now, I don't know where she comes up with this, no.
How much did you have in this account when you started dating
To start
him?
out with, $2,200.
And prior to dating him, had you taken any money out of that account?
No, that account was saved up. I've been saving that money since I was 6 years old to go and buy a car when I was 16 or to go to college.
So what you're telling me is there were no withdrawals made from that account?
None. Zero.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Step up here, please, with your daughter. When did you find out that she was helping him out with money?
The first time I found out about it was his ex-girlfriend left a message on our answering machine telling Kelly that she would never get her $2,000 back, and a few other things she left on. And that was the first time I realized, uh-oh, she's really done it. She's given him some money. And I was afraid she wasn't going to get it back.
And when Mom confronted me, I did lie to her because I was trying to protect him.
When did you break up with him?
When? At the end of August.
Why?
He put his boot through the window of my parents' truck, kicked me in the face with it.
Why?
Lots of fights. We were in the middle of another fight, and it ended up in a domestic dispute.
Did you call the police?
Yes, I did.
In addition to the $2,000 that you say you took out of your account and gave to him, you're suing for $5,000 and the other for medical bills. For what?
During the time that we were together, I contracted a venereal disease, a virus called HPV. There's a letter from my doctor and bills, my medical bills for the last year.
Did you have sexual relations with anyone other than him during this period of time?
No.
What are you laughing about? Why is that a funny question?
No, just like that, no, no.
Well, if you have some information that she had sexual relations with somebody else, I'll hear you, sir.
She had a sexual relationship with a very close friend of mine.
When?
When? During the time that we were dating. Okay? The money that she loaned me, the $800, okay, yes, I did pay back. This was a doorway to open the account, and once the money had started being removed, the $800 that was loaned to me, then she went ahead and removed more money. Okay, whenever I caught up to this, and I confronted her about this, you know, spending money to go here, go there, I said, Kelly, you can't do that. That's not right.
Show me proof that you paid back the $800.
Show me proof that I borrowed $2,000.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When you fool around with jailbait, you sort of accept the consequences of that, sir.
And later today...
You're not a
like
man.
him.
You're a little weasel.
Because
Your whole family.
Just go. Put him away for 20 years. So.
You know what? You're all going to jail.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kelly Atkinson is suing her former boyfriend, Daniel Cope, for money he took when they were dating. She also claims Daniel gave her a sexually transmitted disease and wants him to pay for her medical bills.
Now, you answered one question that I posed to you, sir, with a different answer. I asked you how you knew that she was having sexual relations with somebody else at the same time she was having sexual relations with you. And you are telling me about $800.
How do I know?
Yes.
Because I drove over to my buddy's house. That's where she'd spent the night instead of over at my house like she told her mother.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I caught them.
You caught them what?
I caught them in the house. Half dressed.
Does that sound familiar to you?
No, it does not.
Well, would you tell me what he's talking about if you know?
I have no idea.
Well, tell me about it, sir.
What do you want to know about it?
She was supposed to be spending the night with you?
Yes, Your Honor.
And?
And?
She wasn't there?
She was not there.
So you went looking for her?
I went looking for her, yes.
Well, I'm making this very easy for you.
Well, thank you.
Good. How much are your medical bills?
So far, out of pocket is $895. And I'm going to need many more.
Well, you know, you're partially responsible, madam. So's your mother. In my judgment. You said it. He was 23, going on 19. Probably more like 15. So, he's no genius. Your daughter is 15, going on 16, and clearly she's no genius. You're supposed to be smart enough to put your foot down and say, I don't want you to see this guy because he's too old for you, and I don't think it's appropriate at your age. At age 15, to be dating somebody who's 23 is not appropriate. Maybe when you're 30 and he's 38, it's a different story. But right now, it's not appropriate. That's your job as a mother.
Okay, now whenever Mom did find out about his age and how much we were hanging out together, I was lying to her, again, to try to protect him.
Your mother still says she knew very well that you were dating him and that she gave her tacit approval because she felt that he was immature enough to be almost a contemporary of yours.
And I trusted
Which is
him.
a kind way of saying it.
Very kind.
Very kind. So you bear part of this responsibility. You know. Have you had yourself tested, sir?
I had myself tested, yes.
Good. Do you have the results of the test?
I have what they mail me is a card that says you're okay, fine, that you don't need to call us, you don't need to contact us, that you don't need to come in.
Let me see.
Okay, this does not say nothing, but it's a mailer, all right?
Well, it doesn't say anything. What are you giving it to me for?
That's the only thing that I do have. Okay, if otherwise I'd have been notified, you know, I'd have gotten a phone call saying, come in, we need to discuss this.
What made you go here for blood tests, sir?
Because I started a new relationship, and I wanted to get tested. I wanted to make sure that, you know, before I have an intimate relationship with anybody, that I do not have a problem.
Well, this is interesting because this was just done in October.
Yes, ma'am. I have a new relationship.
I heard that already. You sound like a broken record. But you stopped seeing her in August, right?
A year ago.
A year
ago.
Right.
Right. So this doesn't tell me anything because I don't know whether you were tested a year ago and were treated during the course of that year for anything. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She'd been having sex for long before I come around.
And later today,
You're a lying scumbag. Your whole family is that way. Your dad's constantly bails you out. Your whole family is that way.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kelly Atkinson is suing her former boyfriend, Daniel Cope, claiming he gave her a sexually transmitted disease. Daniel says he knows nothing about it.
Mr. Cope, nobody is blameless in this situation. Unfortunately, you are the legal adult and she is the legal minor. And when you fool around with what we used to call, when I was a child, jailbait, you sort of accept the consequences of that, sir. You took out this money. This was your money supposedly for a car, correct?
For a car or college, whichever I decided that was more important at the time.
And so far you have medical bills in the amount of $895. I'm giving you a judgment in the amount of $2,895. I'm saying the following to you. You started off your life wrong. You're supposed to be smarter.
Mm-hmm.
You're 17 years old. Your mother is supposed to be smarter. Your mother is supposed to be protective. And as far as I'm concerned, this 15-year-old shouldn't have unfettered control over a substantial bank account. It's her money, but she's still a kid.
Right.
Fortunately, what was coming out wasn't money to buy drugs or other things, but it could have been. Mm-hmm. So you got to be very, very careful and very vigilant as a parent these days. I assume your new girlfriend is over the age of 18.
Yes.
Great. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Back door to your right, please.
And I thought maybe they'd be good for each other. Maybe she'd help him grow up a little bit, and he'd help her grow up a little bit.
And now the next case.
Party's on Lewis versus Lewis. Step forward, please.
Secretary Royce Lewis is suing her 19-year-old stepson, Daniel Lewis, for money she loaned him to buy a stereo when he was 16.
Okay, so that we understand who the cast of characters are in this case, this is your stepson.
Yes.
This is your biological son.
Yes.
Are you still married to his father?
Separated.
Married but separated.
Right.
Well, a couple of years ago, while you were probably all living together, correct?
Yes.
According to this, you made a loan to these two boys.
Yes.
To go out and buy some stereo equipment. At that time, he was 16.
Yes.
And it was your agreement that when he turned 18, he would pay you back.
Yes.
Turned 18?
Yeah.
What happened?
He never paid me back. The agreement was that when he turned 18, and I didn't ask for interest or anything, and before I gave them both the money, which was cash, I said, this is with the understanding that when you each turn 18 and get your money from your trust account, that you will pay me back the money that I've loaned you. And they both said yes. I said, then go get stereos for your car.
So you got a stereo for your car.
Yes, I did.
And you got one for your car.
Correct.
When did you separate from his father?
About 2.5, maybe 3 months ago.
And it was after that that you filed this lawsuit?
Right. I told him I was going to the time we were together, and he said I couldn't because he's a pastor of a church and it's his son, and I wasn't allowed to. I said he owes me the money and he's not paying it, and you're not doing anything to get it.
Well, but the marriage was already on.
Right.
Going.
No, actually, no, it wasn't.
Well,
but
then I'm going to tell you something. If you threaten to sue your husband's son, that's a good time for a marriage to start to go south.
Well, I didn't threaten immediately. I said, somehow something has to happen here. It's not right that he's getting away with all this.
Okay.
Okay. Our agreement, basically there was no agreement. She came up to, I did not ask for the money. I did not ask for anything from her. Me and James were both outside one day. She came right in front of our door. She walked down the stairs and was asking us if we had car stereos and how they worked and all this stuff. And she says, well, do you guys want to go down and get new CD players? And of course, I'm 16 years old. You know, I would love to have a new CD player for my car. So she gave us a blank check, said she told us how much we could spend. Me and James went down, got the same exact CD player. I came home, installed it in my car. Later that night, sitting in my room, she walked through the door and then told me that when I was 18, I could pay her back because I was getting my settlement. Okay?
So what did you say to her at that point?
Actually, I never said anything. I never actually said, okay, yes, I will do this, yes, I won't. But the thing is also, even if I had agreed to that, I moved up to Sacramento shortly before I turned 18. When I turned 18, I never heard nothing. To this very day, she has never verbally asked me for that money.
That is a total lie. His dad has talked to him.
Not since.
Not talking about his dad. He said it's you.
My dad left her 2 months ago, and that is when this is happening. And she's suing 4 other of my dad's friends.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Have fun in jail because that's where you're going.
Miss Lewis, a minor cannot make a contract. When he was 16 years old, he could not have entered into a contract, either oral or written, with you for anything. And there are times when, if you enter into an agreement when you're a minor, and if you ratify it later when you turn 18 or 21, depending upon the jurisdiction, then it can become enforceable. But he did not do that. He did not ratify it when he became 18. You cannot make a contract with a minor who is 16 and expect it to be enforced in a court. This lawsuit is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. That's back.
You got my case next, buddy.
Yeah, I've already reported you to Wells Fargo.
I really don't care.
Right.
I really don't care.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
He wouldn't have even had that money if it wasn't for me.
I said
you will
because
pay.
your son can't drive and got in a car accident.
Shut up, you.
Why can't you be a man and pay the money back?
You lied to your dad.
Because you can't hold the job.
Yes, you lied to your dad. You said you didn't get the money out of the trust account. I called the bank. You got it.
Yeah,
then
I
you
did get it.
said,
the only thing was I got
lied.
it 3 months after I turned 18 because I couldn't. But what
because
does that
you
matter?
were too stupid to figure out how to get it on your own. I know you can't do contracts with minors. I'm not stupid.
Party's on Creech versus Daniels. Step forward, please.
Susan Creech is suing Thomas Daniels, her 48-year-old live-in lover of 8 years. Susan says Daniels left her just a month after she bought him a Camaro. Daniels, a driver by occupation, took the car with him.
Order, all rise. Quiet, please, all rise. Your Honor, this is number 20 on the calendar in the matter of Creech versus Daniels. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
All right, Miss Creech, you were in a relationship with this gentleman for about 7 years, according to your complaint.
Yes.
And towards the end of that relationship, you say you lent him money to buy a car.
Right.
$4,000 to buy the car and another $1,100 for what?
For stereo and an alarm.
And how much after you made this loan to him did you separate?
About a month and a half.
You couldn't tell that there was handwriting on the wall?
No.
No?
No, I guess he could, but I couldn't.
You, sir, say that this was a gift.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
So?
Not.
Tell me how it came about.
Okay. We had a car that we bought together, a Trans Am that we were going to sell.
A Trans Am?
The deal was he came home on March 28th and he took off with the car.
Which car?
The Trans Am, with his friend, supposedly to show it to somebody to sell. But actually, it went down to another woman's house. And so then he, the next morning, he took off with the Camaro.
Just a minute. How did we get to the Camaro? I want to know how you bought the Camaro.
I bought it with, my dad died and he left me some money. And it was in a separate account with my name on it. And I wrote the check to the company.
How did you
in
find
cash.
this Camaro?
Oh, we were shopping for parts at a wreckage company and they had the car for sale. And it was
This was
a good
about
deal.
a month before you separated.
Right.
So,
It was on
what was the
Valentine's
conversation
Day.
like when you saw this car?
Well, we were looking at the car, and he said, God, this is a good deal for $4,000, and it's 10 years younger, or older, younger, than what I already have. And so I said, well, let's think about it, because at the time he had quit his job, and he wasn't working. And I said, if you get a job, then we'll get the car. Well, Monday came, he told me he had a job, which was a big lie. And then he
What
went
did he
back
say
to
to you?
his,
He got a job doing what?
driving a truck, like he always does.
And you were living together at this time?
Yeah.
And you lived together the entire 7-year period?
On and off.
Okay, go ahead.
So anyway, on Thursday, the previous Thursday, he told me I have a job and I start Monday. So I believed him like an idiot. And Monday came and went, and so did the job. And then he went in and he has a drinking problem. He went in and he told me they decided not to accept me because, you know, the insurance wouldn't accept him.
What do you mean?
Well,
you mean
when
the
you have-
insurance for the trucking job?
Right, because he had a DUI like 10 years ago on his record.
Okay.
So, but the time was a little fishy, like when he left to when he went to this job. So amazing, he comes back to San Jose, and he got his old job back, where he always gets it back. You know what I mean? Because when he works well. It's when he doesn't work, he drinks. So we got the job back, and started driving the truck. But I never got any money back.
Just a second. I still didn't hear how you bought the car.
Oh, then we went back to where this, you know, car was for sale, and he had a job, and I wrote the check, and the deal was he was supposed to be paying me back some money, but the money never came.
Now, when you got the car, you paid for the full amount. Is that
Yes.
right? So far, is that correct, sir?
Paying for the full amount, it is, Your Honor.
Okay. And you put the car in whose name?
Jointly.
Joint?
Joint.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, so far, that's at least one smart thing that you did.
Yeah, once in my life, yeah.
Okay. And then a month later, you separated.
Right.
But he also wanted a stereo in the car and an alarm.
Well, a week or two after that, we went down to this place where we had bought stereos and alarms before and just had it put in. I put it on the Visa. It was $1,100. So that's how.
So this was 2 weeks before you separated.
We bought the car on the 14th of February, and we bought the stereo on the 22nd of February.
And when did you separate?
The 29th of March.
Not a long time.
No.
So now you've got a
new
nice
car.
new Camaro with a stereo and an alarm.
Yes, Your Honor.
And what caused you to separate?
Her story is pretty well to the point. There's a few things that are just kind of a little iffy on that. For one thing, the other car is a 76 Pontiac Firebird, not a Trans Am. There's a difference. Okay. And another thing, the part about getting a job never came up.
Let's start about the part about the car.
The car.
Such a lie.
The car.
Okay.
You
car.
are such a liar.
Car. Miss
Why
Creech.
would I buy a
Miss
car
Creech.
if he had no job?
Miss Creech.
To pay me back. Such a liar.
Are we done?
No, we're
Yeah,
not done.
Miss Creech.
We're done.
If you want to talk to him, you go outside. If you want to talk to me, you can stay here.
Okay.
Thank
Is that
you.
fair?
Sure.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
7 years of this. Anyway, what I'm saying is there was no contract. We went to get parts for my car.
No contract with whom?
Her and I.
Let me have. You think that there should have been a contract
No,
between
no,
the
no,
two
no,
of you?
no. There shouldn't have been a contract because there was no question in my mind that
what?
That we were buying a car and it was going to be my car. She can't. Can you drive a stick?
Just a second.
Can you? She can't drive a stick, Your Honor.
What does that got to
Listen
do
to
with
me.
anything?
Listen to me. She said that you were buying this car because you were going to sell the old car that you had.
That's perfectly correct.
I know, because that's what you put in your answer.
Right, but the thing is, there was no time that I was going to sell the car. I said, I'm going to sell the car, which doesn't mean I had a buyer for it. The car is for sale right now.
The car's in Riverside.
Just a second.
The car has a for sale sign on it right now, Your Honor, in Riverside, at this young lady's house.
Yeah.
Okay?
Why do you think? And you have, so you have both cars.
Yes.
Let me understand this. Let me just put on my thinking cap and understand this whole thing. You have the Pontiac, right?
Correct, Your Honor.
You have the Camaro.
Correct, Your Honor.
You have the stereo.
Correct, Your Honor.
You have the alarm.
Correct, Your Honor.
She has the Visa bill.
Correct,
Right, just
Your
a
Honor.
second. She has the Visa bill. She has the Visa bill. She has the check stub for $4,000 and fond memories of you. That's what she has. You think that that's fair?
Your Honor.
No. Your Honor, I know who I am. Do you think that that's fair?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why did you break up, sir?
I told her either he goes or I go.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Thomas Daniels says his former live-in, Susan Creech, is mad because he left her after 8 years. Susan says he left with the Camaro she paid for.
So how are we going to make it fair, sir?
Well, if I can convince you that I...
Order.
You asked me a question earlier about...
If you could convince me what?
If I can convince you that there was no she bought this Friday we went and took a look at the car. We didn't talk about the car all weekend long. Monday she goes, do you want to go and let's go and get your car? And I never mentioned it to her. Not one word did I say to her. Friday we talked about it. We discussed it. I said, I'll put the Firebird up for sale.
Just a minute. Let's go back.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You said, you discussed it, and you said, I'll put the Firebird up for sale. Whatever we get to the Firebird, we can put towards this, and then we will pay it off.
No.
No.
No. I said I would put the Firebird up for sale.
For what?
Huh? Well, I can't drive both cars, Your Honor.
And what are we going to do with the money that you got from the Firebird?
Okay.
Oh,
We
not
had a
okay.
joint. We
Not
had a joint.
okay.
We
Answer
had,
my
Your Honor,
question.
we had a joint account.
Just a second.
My checks went with her account. Her checks went in her account. Okay? She had all
My
the Visa
check, just a
cards.
second. My checks, you just said, went with her account.
You're damn right.
And her check,
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
my checks went in her account, and her checks went in
Her account.
her account.
We had a joint account. Okay?
So that all the checks went together.
Right. Who had
You were going to sell the Firebird
and put it back
in the joint account.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's okay. So that you have money to pay for the Visa, the $1,100 paying
Very
off the
good.
Visa and all that stuff. Right? Just a minute. Am I right so far?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, then you didn't sell the Firebird, and I am correct. She has the memories and the bills, and you have the cars and the stereo.
Correct.
So then what's the problem?
Miss Creech?
Yes.
I don't see, quite frankly, sir, that there's any problem. You bought this car, and there was an understanding, a 7-year relationship. There was an understanding that you were going to use this car together. Evidently, you did the driving. She was the passenger in the car most of the time when you traveled together. You were going to have one car. You were going to sell the Firebird. You were going to have the Camaro, right?
She has her own car, Your Honor.
That's true, but I also have my own vehicles, which I drive.
She can't drive my car, Your Honor. She knew going into this deal, going into this proposition, that it was a stick, Your Honor. She can't drive a stick.
He always buys cars that have sticks. Every
They're-
single car
they're my
he's
vehicles.
ever owned. But
just a second, if you buy, they're your vehicles. If you buy them, she bought this one, and you
with
say it was
our money, Your Honor.
What do you mean with our? Just a minute.
It was
She
a
says-
joint account. It was a joint account, Your Honor. It was our money.
Just a second.
My money went in there also. It was not just her money.
Hold on. $4,000. She said this $4,000 came from
In 7 years' time, I have worked more than $4,000, Your Honor.
No, we're not.
I have
just
put
a minute.
money in this bank.
Just a second. Talking about the $4,000 that she took out of an account. Did she take that out of your joint account?
No.
No.
Well, then that wasn't your joint money.
Funny, we
We're
had
not
no
going
money
back
in
to
it,
the,
huh?
Listen, sir, we're not going back to the year of the flood. You were together 7 years. You ate a lot of meals during those 7 years.
Drank a lot
you
of
paid
beer.
a lot of rent. You whatever. She says you drank a lot of booze.
Lots.
Whatever it was, you lived over that 7 years. And you can't say, well, I must have given her $4,000 over that 7 years. That doesn't sound right to you. This $4,000, she says, came out of a probate account when someone in her family died and left her some money.
Right.
But is it your position that she bought you these things as a gift as a gift?
As a gift.
Why? Because she loved you?
Yeah.
And because she thought you were going to be together?
I thought, yeah.
Okay. So that dream lasted another 4 weeks after she bought you this stuff.
But there's a lot more to it, Your Honor.
I know. I'm not interested in what happened 6 years ago and 5 years ago. What I want to know, sir, is what was the precipitous for your breaking up 4 weeks after you bought this car?
Okay, Your Honor.
That's me.
She has a son, a 19-year-old son who does not work, has been graduated out of school, does nothing more than run around with gangs, does nothing more than get stopped doesn't get stopped for tagging, gets thrown in jail for tagging. I've told her that she goes to work at 11 o'clock at night. I stay home and sleep.
Why did you break up, sir?
I
Get
told
to
her
the point.
either he goes or I go. Okay? He was staying. I said, hasta la vista. And I left.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
As long as I never have to see or hear from you again, I'm happy.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ex-lovers Susan Creech and Tom Daniels are fighting over the Camaro she bought just before they broke up.
2 weeks after I'm gone, she kicks him out of the house and then says to me, well, you were right.
Not 2 weeks.
Just a second. Just a second.
She says,
Hold
you're
it.
right. You're right.
Right.
I said, but what did it take me leaving the house for? Because we've been fighting about it for months, literally months. And it got to the point where I just said, hey, I'm beating my head against the wall. I come home here and try and get a good night's sleep, and all I'm doing is listening to boom boxes at 2:30 in the morning. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go down there, and I got tired of threatening the kid. Okay? Doesn't prove that I'm a big man because I can threaten a 19-year-old kid. All right?
So
I got tired of it.
So why are you angry with her?
Angry with her?
Shh. Yeah, why are you angry with her? You gave her
Because
a choice.
I gave her all the warnings in the world.
let
Your
her-
Honor, I gave her all the warnings in the world. I said, look, either he goes or I go. I gave her 30 days. 30 days came and passed. I gave her 60.
You have
what
children?
was I going to do?
You have children?
Do I have children? Of
why
my
you
own,
keep
yes.
Why do you keep repeating
Yes,
my
Your Honor,
questions?
I do.
How old are your children, sir?
21, 27, and 16, I guess.
What do you mean you guess?
I don't see them.
You don't see them.
No,
Why is that?
I don't see my children.
Well,
That's not fair.
then let me suggest this to you, sir. It's very difficult for a parent, in this case a mother, to be faced with an ultimatum, even from a maid of 7 years, that says it's either your son or me. When you say you got 30 days to choose your son or me, even though he's a pain in the neck, listen, that's not an easy choice for a mother to make. She clearly cared for you. She cared enough for you, and she doesn't look like a lady who's got money coming out of every pore. So she clearly cared enough for you to go out and say, you want this car, you really like it, here's $4,000, I'm going to buy this car because I know it will make you happy if we have this car. And you also like a nice stereo in the car. I'm going to take money out for that too, so that you can have a nice stereo in the car. So she's clearly a lady who cared for you. But when you tell her you got 30 days to choose between him or me, even if this son of hers is a real royal pain in the rump, which I believe he probably is.
He was.
Right? Because
So was he.
afterwards you told him out. Right. It's not easy to accept that kind of ultimatum from anybody when it comes to a child.
Well, the problem was, though, he had plenty of chances. He's done some really choice things in his life. I felt like I was giving everybody chances. But he's such a selfish person, he has to have everything to himself. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's not a very difficult decision to make. You left, you had been having problems, according to your statement, Mr. Daniels, for months with regard to this boy.
So why did he take both cars? I'd like to know why.
I wasn't planning on leaving one to have it trashed.
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on. How about the
Mr. Daniels,
how about the
Mr.
Firebird?
Daniels.
How about the Fiaro? How about the Fiaro? Who keyed the Fiaro?
Me.
Thank you. I'm going to leave a Pontiac sitting there by itself, Your Honor.
Why would I?
For this woman to key up again?
Mr. Daniels,
Doesn't make any
Mr.
sense.
Daniels,
It still wasn't her car.
Why didn't you leave her the Camaro?
Pardon me?
Because he wanted
Just a second. What word didn't you understand?
I wanted the Camaro.
Because
but just a...
Good.
You wanted the Camaro, Mr. Daniels, but she paid for it. But she paid for it. If you were leaving after 4 weeks, it seems to me a little disingenuous of you, sir, to leave and take a car that she had just purchased for you.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. Need help in a divorce dispute? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Let me ask you this question. Do you think she bought, and I keep saying bought this car for you to use because she had faith that your relationship was going to continue?
Yeah, I'm sure she had.
Okay. It's no different a situation to me, sir, from somebody giving somebody an engagement ring. And it's always been my position that when a man buys a woman an engagement ring, that's given under a sort of a contract that they have, that they will be together and that they will marry. And in the event that that marriage does not take place, it has always been my position that the ring has to go back to the man. Now, a lot of women say, listen, he gave that to me, it was a gift. But the gift was given with the intention, that ring was given with the intention of the marriage taking place. When that doesn't happen, the contract is over. This car was bought in contemplation of the two of you being together. Maybe if you had been together for 20 years, I would say, well, you know, you were together for 20 years after you bought this car, so that was sort of fulfilled. But there is something that doesn't sit right with me here that you left in a month's time, taking the car, the stereo, as well as the alarm. The alarm should have gone off in your head. The judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
Is there a way that you can make him bring the other car up from Riverside? Because he wants me to go down and get it.
Madam, let me explain something to you. You've just told me this man drinks. Mm-hmm. He is selfish.
True.
He's self-centered. Mm-hmm. He gave you an ultimatum with regard to your child, right?
True.
He perhaps has not been totally faithful to your relationship.
Big time.
Big time?
Big time.
You just won a judgment for $5,000. What do you want a 20-year-old Pontiac for? Right?
True.
Perfect. $5,000 for the plaintiff.
All right, excuse you may step out.
On the next Judge Judy.
He just doesn't like to tell the truth. That's all. I don't know what else.
That's your opinion.
He has no conscience. He has no
That's
heart.
your opinion.
That is my opinion.
Okay, that's not my opinion.
That's okay. He asked me.
As long as I never have to see or hear from you again, I'm happy, all right? I had a drunk driving ticket in 1989.
And he's been drinking
Since that time,
since.
I've not had a ticket since.
Luckily.
I have a perfect drive.
Luckily.
You want to speak for me or what?
No, luckily.
Why don't you just hush?
Most of the time he's quitting his job. Most of the time he's philandering. Am I lying, Thomas?
It's your tail.
Am I lying,
It's
Thomas?
her tail.
Yeah, okay.
You know, as far as I'm concerned, I have no more to say. She can be speaking for me.
No problem.
She's done it for 7 years. Why should she not do it now?
Parties on Besmirtnik versus Newsom. Step forward, please.
29-year-old James Besmirtnik says his ex-wife's fiancé, 33-year-old Bob Newsom, hit him in the face and damaged a storm door during a child visitation exchange. Bob Newsom is countersuing for supporting James's daughter.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 226 on the calendar in the matter of Besmirtnik versus Newsom.
Waybird.
Fine, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Besmirtnik, it appears that you are the father of a child. This is your former wife?
That's correct.
You are the current fiancé of the former wife.
That's true.
Your suit alleges, sir, that this gentleman assaulted you during a visitation with your daughter.
That's correct.
That he hit you in the face, hurt your eye. You are countersuing because you say that you have provided support that the plaintiff was supposed to provide for the child, and because he hasn't been providing that support for the child, you have.
That's true.
When were you divorced from this lady?
I don't remember the actual date. I would say probably around
Give me
June,
a month and a year.
Probably around June of... June of 97.
A decade.
June of 97, I believe.
June of 97. And when were you married? What month and year? To her?
To her? December 3rd.
Of what year?
96.
So you were married not for a long time.
Correct.
And your daughter had been born already?
Yes.
When you got married. How old is your daughter? 5?
She's 8 now.
8. You have visitation with her?
Yes, I do.
Is that pursuant to a judgment of divorce?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, you arranged for visitation, sir, with your former wife on this particular weekend. And what was the arrangement that you made with your former wife?
The arrangement that her and I had made, we discussed that evening as I was picking my daughter up, that she would be coming back out to pick my daughter up that Sunday, the day the incident occurred.
This was a weekend visitation?
That's correct.
And you spoke to your former wife, and the arrangement was for you to pick your daughter up?
That's correct.
And did you?
Yes, I did.
And that was on Friday or Saturday?
That was on a Friday.
And she was supposed to be returned on Sunday?
That's correct.
What time?
There was really no preset time that her and I discussed. Usually when she came out to pick her up, it was between 6 and 8 o'clock that evening.
And was the formal arrangement that you worked out with your wife, you would pick her up and your former wife would come and get her about 6 or 8 o'clock?
That's correct.
Tell me what happened on this particular weekend.
That Sunday, I had called my ex-wife approximately around 6 p.m. that evening to find out when she was going to be coming out to pick her up, because we were getting ready to make arrangements to have her sit down and eat dinner, and we were going to have her go visit her grandparents for a couple minutes before she said goodbye. Then we were going to bring her back over to my house and for her to pick her up that evening.
About what time?
Well, we never discussed on the telephone what time she was going to be coming out. Just that I had called and asked her if she was still coming out, and at that time when I spoke to her on the phone, she said no.
You said to her, "Are you still coming out?"
Basically,
that's what you just said.
I
Are you still coming out? And she said no.
That's correct.
And what did you say?
I asked her why, and she said it was because of the fact that I was failure to pay her child support as ordered by the court.
So she said, you're not paying child support, you pick up the child and bring the child home.
Right.
Is that what you're telling me?
Basically in a roundabout way, yes.
Okay. So did you?
No. The reason why is because my wife, we were waiting on her ex-boyfriend to bring her son home to our house that evening. We weren't sure of the time when he was going to be there. He had never called to say that he was going to be coming down to drop his son off, and at what time or anything. So at the time we only had one vehicle, and because her ex-boyfriend didn't know where her parents lived or where her sister lived, there would be no way that he'd be able to drop her off other than at our house.
So he was dropped. Just a second. I'm a little confused here. Your wife's ex-boyfriend was dropping off her son.
Her son, correct.
So what did you need a car for if he was dropping off the son?
To be able to transport my daughter back to their house.
Well, that's what we're talking about. I mean, you had a car that wasn't needed because the other child in your house was being dropped off by that child's father. So you had a car.
Yes.
So why didn't you, when she said, I'm not picking up our daughter, you bring her home, why didn't you just bring her home? So don't give me a lot of excuses that don't make sense, sir. You just got annoyed, right?
No, I wasn't. It had nothing to do with annoyance.
Well, then why didn't you do it?
It's because of the fact that her son, and also because of the fact that she said that we had agreed to, or prior to that.
Forget the son. Forget your wife's son. That has nothing to do with it.
Okay.
We just came and put a period to that argument. He was being dropped off. You didn't need a car. You had a car. You could have taken your daughter home. You decided not to take her home. And it was because you say she broke a prior agreement that she would come and pick the child up.
Right.
Is it true you haven't paid child support?
That's correct.
Why not?
Right now, I'm still currently unemployed.
How long have you been still currently unemployed?
Since March or April of this year.
And prior to that, what kind of work did you do?
Prior to that, I was a computer repair technician.
Did you pay support in February, sir?
At that time, when I was working, no, there was no payments being made because I wasn't working really that long. I was probably
All right, so when you were working, you weren't paying support, and now that you're not working, you're not paying support. How do you support yourself? What?
Well, through help from my parents. And we're doing odd jobs on the side.
That's right. You can understand why your former wife is annoyed that you're not contributing to your child's support, can't you?
Yes, I do, and I understand that.
Good. Now that we got through with that, now let's get back to this Sunday. So on Sunday, according to these papers, between, say, 10 and 11 o'clock at night, they did show up to pick up your daughter.
That's correct.
Tell me what happened.
From where they live, from work to my house, it's roughly about an hour drive. And about 9 o'clock, I waited. No arrival, no phone call. 10 o'clock, same thing. So about 10:30, I had set my security alarm and was prepared to take my daughter to bed when about 11 o'clock, I received a knock on the door. I turned off the alarm, walked over to the door. It's my ex-wife at the door, and she said, where's my daughter? I woke her up. She gathered her things together, put her in the car, came back to the house, and basically words were exchanged, and that's when the door was kicked.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Once I am employed, which will...
You are employed!
And until
you just let somebody else take your pay.
Right, in October.
Right, I know right.
October.
I know right.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. James Besmertnik claims his ex-wife's fiancé, Bob Newsom, hit him in the face for no reason.
Now let's hear about this assault, sir.
Words were exchanged.
With whom?
Actually between myself, my ex-wife, and with the defendant. And that's when he came over to me and hit me in the eye.
And you weren't doing anything?
No. I did nothing to provoke it.
Do you have a doctor's report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. You paid $5 for these visits, sir, out of total charges that were much more than that. Do you have some sort of insurance?
No.
Well, how do you pay for these visits?
My wife was the one that wrote the checks for those visits.
Does your wife have health insurance?
The only insurance that she has is medical insurance through, I believe, Franklin County.
Does she receive welfare?
Yes.
She get food stamps?
No.
How does she support herself?
Right now, she is working until the baby's born. She's working for my father.
She's working for your father doing what?
Delivering automotive parts.
So what you're trying to tell me, sir, is that your wife works and you don't?
No, she's the one that volunteered.
No. What you're telling me is
that's correct.
Your wife works for your father.
That's correct.
Off the books.
That I don't know.
Of course you do.
No, I don't.
Your wife works for your father off the books. She collects some sort of welfare, and you do nothing. You don't work for your father. She must have a better relationship with your father than you do.
Well, actually, I do help him out, but he doesn't pay me. He pays her.
All designed to avoid your child support.
No.
Well, it certainly is successful in avoiding your child support, sir, because if you were working for your father on the books and he was paying you instead of paying your wife for work you did, the state would come in and take out some money and pay your former wife some child support. Isn't that a fair statement?
That is correct.
Perfect. I think I was born yesterday. Huh?
But you stayed up all night, right?
Yeah, right. Thank you, Bert. That was good. All right, Mr. Newsom, tell me just about the assault, sir. I'm ready to hear your version of the assault.
Okay. We got to the house. We were at the front door. Mrs. Besmertnik advised us that we were not going to take the child.
You mean his present wife?
Yes, Sherry.
Okay.
She informed us that we were not taking Brittany. We might as well go on back to Zanesville because we couldn't have her. I grabbed a hold of the door. She grabbed a hold of the door from the inside. And when I kicked the bottom of the door, it bent the bottom of the door in. I pulled the door open, told Vicky to go in and get her child and put her in the car. Sherry was arguing with us about the child support, told us we had no right to expect child support. It was a privilege and not a right. Some words were exchanged. We did get an argument. James started yelling some profanities at Vicky, his ex-wife. I kind of tried to get between them because I didn't want anything to happen. He went over to the corner of his living room, got a walking stick type of a crooked-looking stick thing, come across the living room at me with it and said, "I'll take care of this," picked up the stick like he was going to hit me with it, and I hit him in the eye.
Were you present?
Yes.
Step up here. Tell me what you saw at the time of the assault.
I had just come back in the house, and Sherry was still standing at the door, and he was standing on the other side of the living room. Him and I began to argue, and her and
What were you arguing about?
About that day when I talked to him on the phone. I told him, I'm not coming to get her. As long as I'm providing all necessities, he can at least provide his own visitation.
His own transportation.
His own transportation for the visitation.
That sounds right to me.
Well, we were arguing about that, and I told him, I said, next time.
You don't have to get up early to go to work in the morning, right? Go ahead.
So, him and I were arguing, and him and I were ready to fight.
Okay.
And that's when those two got into it. He stepped in between us, and he walked over and he got the stick. And he was calling me some horrible names, calling him some horrible names, and he hit him.
Okay. Tell me about this support that you provide for Brittany, Mr. Newsom.
I was carrying her on my health insurance, taking her to doctor's visits, taking her to dentist visits.
Your judgment of divorce provide that you're supposed to pay 50% of the child's unreimbursed medical expenses?
That I don't know. It just says that both of us, either one of us, has to get medical insurance to cover our daughter.
And the one who provides it, the other one has to pay half.
That's correct.
You've left that out. You leave out everything, sir, that involves you paying. So how much have you paid?
The medical coverage, when they approached me and informed me about medical coverage, I had asked my ex-wife, I said, could you make me a copy of the medical bills? Because I'm not going to take her word on the monetary value at face value unless I could see actual documented proof that that's how much the medical bills cost.
And then you're prepared to pay them?
Once I am employed, which will be...
You are employed!
And until
you just let somebody else take your pay.
Right, in October.
Right, I know right.
October.
I know right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your daughter was expecting you those weekends.
Yes.
And you just didn't show up.
That's correct.
Oh, you are some winner.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. James Besmertnik wants his ex-wife's fiancé, Bob Newsom, to pay for hitting him in the face and destroying a storm door. Bob wants James to pay him for supporting his daughter.
At the time these bills were paid, you personally paid for these bills, sir. Not your fiancé. You paid for them. Is that
I paid for them because she was only working part-time.
You're a nice guy. You have children?
Yes, I do.
How many children do you have?
I have a 9-year-old and we have a 2-year-old.
Do you support your 9-year-old?
Yes, I do. Every week.
You current in your child support?
Yes, I am.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm an automotive technician.
Oh, where's the trusty calculator? Do me a favor, sir. Would you add up these bills that are just marked for Brittany? Okay? Thank you. You seem to indicate in your answer that the plaintiff comes irregularly for visitation.
Yes.
Is that true, sir, that you come irregularly to pick up your daughter for visitation?
Every Friday was when, or every other Friday was when I'm supposed to pick her up.
That's not what I asked you. I know when you're supposed to pick her up according to you. Do you come every other Friday to pick your daughter up for visitation?
Yes, I do. Unless we had agreed that they were going to keep her that weekend to take her someplace or have something special planned for her that weekend, then no. Then another arrangement would be made.
So according to you, there have been no weekends when you've disappointed the child by not showing up?
No, not that I remember.
Is that correct?
He has not. He saw her for 5 days in July. Prior to that, he had not seen her since April, and visitation prior to that point was sporadic at best.
What happened between
maybe once
April
every
and
couple
July,
months.
sir?
April and July, basically, there was a conflict between my ex-wife and I, and rather than try to go out there and deal with another argument or deal with the situation, I decided it would be best for my daughter not to see that argument, and decided not to be there to pick her up.
And how did you communicate that to your daughter, who's 8 years old?
I didn't.
So as far as you knew, your daughter was expecting you those weekends?
Yes.
And you just didn't show up?
That's correct.
Oh, you are some winner.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Okay. Being a judge requires evaluating people's credibility. Credibility comes in many forms. One of the things that we look to is common sense. Common sense, and whether a witness has been perfectly candid and forthcoming in other testimony, which I find you have not been, sir. It sounds to me as if you are a classic example of a deadbeat father who had a child who chooses not to support that child, and whatever money that you are going to make from now on is going to go to your new family. That's a decision that clearly you made, and it's clearly a decision that your wife made. I say that because the facts are evident. They came out of your own mouth after some prodding that you do, in fact, work. You probably are employed on a full-time basis. You work for your father off the books, and whatever money is supposed to be paid to you is paid to your wife in order to avoid your child support. So that all sounds to me pretty devious and underhanded. Therefore, I don't believe your story that out of the blue he came over and socked you in the eye. I think that in all probability you did pick up a stick or something in your house, and while you may not have hit him with it first, he had cause to believe that you were about to assault him and defended himself, so I'm dismissing your lawsuit. Now on your counterclaim, you have a responsibility to support your daughter. That's what the law says. It's the law, and it's also the right thing to do. You, on the other hand, Mr. Newsom, do not have an obligation to support this child. And I believe that you are entitled to be compensated for what you have actually spent for the child, which comes to $532. So on your counterclaim, sir, I am awarding you $532. And you, sir, goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Parties on Opp versus Gallagher. Step forward, please.
29-year-old Julie Opp and her boyfriend, John Gallagher, a private investigator, drove to Mexico so Julie could live out a private fantasy, to dance in a strip club. But when the time came, John got jealous and a fight erupted at the border.
Order. All rise. Quiet, please. All rise. Judges, number 7 on the calendar in the matter of Opp versus Gallagher. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Well, this is some story, depending upon the version. Bottom line, Miss Opp, you are suing the defendant, Mr. Gallagher, because you say he assaulted you on a recent trip to Mexico.
Yes.
Why you were there is somewhat in dispute. We'll get to that in a minute. He says that you assaulted him first. Something that you don't really deny in your papers.
Yes, I did.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. Were you his girlfriend?
We were girlfriend and boyfriend.
For how long? Before you took this trip, this fateful trip?
Probably a year and a half.
What were you doing in Mexico?
We originally went down there to get him some steroids and some medicine that takes you off of steroids.
No, that's not true, Your Honor.
Well, I'll get to you in a second. All right, so tell me when you left. You left for Mexico on what day of the week?
We left on the 17th. I don't remember what day of the week that was.
Oh, was it on a weekend?
I don't even remember.
Were you planning on spending a few days there?
No, we just went there for the day to pick up his steroids.
So you left in the morning?
Yeah.
What time did you get there?
I think it was around 10.
In the
11.
morning?
Yeah.
So what did you do? Tell me about the day.
We got there and we went to the pharmacy to look for his stuff, and he wanted to find a doctor where he could get his steroids, and that took an hour or two, and then we went, had some tacos, drank a few beers, and basically that took a couple more hours. Then we went to a strip bar. We had previously talked about me dancing, and I said no, I'm not comfortable with it.
Well, tell me if that's what I don't. That's what I find so interesting about this case. You went to a few strip bars and you talked about you dancing.
Well, before we went to the strip bar, we talked about it.
What was the conversation?
He wanted to see me dancing.
No. Oh.
Go ahead.
He wanted to see me dance because it was kind of like a fantasy thing between us. He just wanted to see it. I wasn't a dancer. He'd never seen me on a stage, and I told him if I did do it, I would need to drink a lot in order to get up there. And so we went to the strip bar. I drank a lot, and
you got pretty drunk?
I don't really get drunk because I get sick really easy, but I got tipsy. Definitely, I had to relax in order to do it.
Okay.
And so I drank. He said, "Come on, keep doing it, you know, go do it." And finally, I did it. I went up there and I danced. And when I got down
at this strip bar.
Yes. And
Bambi's.
Do you have to? I mean, can anybody just go there and do this? Do you have to ask a manager?
Anybody can do it. There was other American girls there doing it too. And there was a bunch of Marines. It wasn't.
Okay. Feels foolish now, doesn't it?
I'd never done it before.
Oh, okay.
And it was supposed to be something private between him and I, and it didn't end up that way.
So what happened? You danced?
I danced. I was done. We went to another bar, and he's like, do it here, and we're sitting there, and there was a girl dancing in front of us, and he says, give me $1, I want to tip her. I said, I'm not going to give you $1 to tip her. Use your own money. And we got into an argument from that point on. So we walked out of the strip bar, and we're arguing on the street, and he called me a whore, and I said, how could you call me a whore? You're the one who talked me into doing this. And he goes, I'm sorry. He goes, I shouldn't have said that. Hit me. And I go, no. And he goes, hit me, you're a whore. And he just kept saying it. Finally, I hit him. I mean, we were arguing. It wasn't just a calm thing.
So you hit him?
So I hit him.
Where'd you hit him?
I'm sorry?
Where did you hit him?
In the face.
One time or more than one time?
One time, and then he called me a whore and told me, hit me again, hit me again. So I hit him one more time. And then we grabbed a taxi.
3 times.
And then we grabbed a taxi, and we were driving back because we were going to get in trouble at that point. And he started calling me a whore again. So instead of hitting him, I grabbed my clog off my foot and hit him over the head. So I went and hit him in the face. But tempers were not good, and he kept calling me a whore. And
he was pretty drunk too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So
you get to the border.
We get to the border, and things have calmed down. We're back on this side. It's kind of over. I said I had to go to the bathroom before we go back, and
in the parking lot where you park, there's a public restroom. And we went in there, and he starts arguing, and he's talking about it, and I said, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't want to argue. It's over. Let's just go home. It's been a bad day. And I tried to get out of the bathroom because I was done, and he wouldn't let me out of the bathroom. He kept arguing with me. And so I went to open the door, unlock the door, and get out. So it was hot and stinky. It's gross in there. And he wouldn't let me out. Finally, he grabbed me, and he pulled me away from the door and shoved me against the wall. And then that's when the back of my head hit the wall, and I passed out. And he was yelling at me, "Stop it, you're faking it, you're faking it." And I was looking at him saying, "I'm not faking it, I'm passing out right now." And I was slumping down to the ground. And when I came to, because I kind of went out, when I came to, I noticed my hearing was gone. And then I became hysterical because I didn't know what was wrong. I'd never even heard of a ruptured eardrum. I didn't know what it was. I thought I had gone deaf for some reason. And I started screaming to him. We walked back to the car. He finally let me out, and we started to drive away. I said, "Take me to a hospital. This isn't normal. There's something wrong with me. Take me to a hospital." And he said, "No, I'm not. You know, you're fine. You're faking it." And so I grabbed my cellular phone because he wasn't going to take me to the hospital to dial 911, and he grabbed the phone and wouldn't let me call. And so because he wouldn't go to the hospital, I opened the door and pretended I was going to jump out. In order to let him know that I was serious, I needed to go to the hospital.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She would remain anonymous. No one would find out about this, and she could let her inhibitions go.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Julie Opp is suing ex-boyfriend John Gallagher, claiming he punctured her eardrum during a fight over her amateur stripping debut.
So you have medical bills that you want him to pay for?
Yes.
What were your medical bills?
One's the doctor's bill, which is $228.64. One is the lab bill, which is $267.24. And then there's the emergency hospital bill, which is $1,306.
Okay, Mr. Gallagher. You had enough water, sir?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Go to the bathroom?
Let's hear your story. You
All right,
went to Mexico.
I'll tell you the real version of the story. Actually, it started about a week before the date we went down. I can't recall the date, but the week prior, she had gone down to Mexico with a girlfriend named Melissa, done the same thing. She had been flirting with the idea of possibly trying, dancing at nightclubs. And, can't blame her. She's, pretty attractive and can make a lot of money at it. So they had gone down and came back and told me the story how she had gotten up on stage. And I don't think she actually meant to, but she ended up getting up on stage, and she made a bunch of money. And she was kind of excited. And it probably was a fantasy thing also, but we decided to go down on that Saturday.
How much is a bunch of money? I'm just
She
curious.
had a lot of crinkle $1 bills, but I'm sure more than 100 of them.
$80. $80. It's not a lot of money.
She was probably on there for like 5 minutes and made $80.
This was before you made
I'd
$80
gone the
when you went
weekend
down there
before
with the girlfriend.
With my girlfriend, I told him about it, and he said, "I want to do that." And we talked about it.
So
and
you
I
went
said,
down
No,
the week
she
before
wanted
with
to-
Shaq.
I said that I wasn't really comfortable with it.
But you went down a week before you made $80.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So she wanted me to go down with her
I'm going
as...
to charge you for the water.
Can I get something better? So, I'm a little nervous. She wanted me to go with her, partly as protection. Melissa couldn't go, and also a fantasy thing. But we didn't go down in the morning, and we did not go down to buy steroids. It's a lie. We didn't go down to buy steroids. We actually went down. It was dark out when
Ask
we
him
were
to take
driving.
his jacket off.
Yeah. We went... While we were there, well, we did go down, but it wasn't in the morning. It was dark out. It was probably like 7 or 8 o'clock when we started driving down. She drove her car, and we did stop at the border, and we parked in that parking lot and took the red bus. It's just this red bus you take in. It's like a mile. It costs $1. And I did buy some pharmaceuticals there. They were not steroids. I didn't go down to buy steroids. Then we started drinking, and actually went to a taco bar across the street from the strip bars, and we had some beers, and we went to, I think, 2 other bars and drank a lot of tequila. We did get pretty drunk. And she got her courage up, and she really wasn't sure if she was going to do this, and maybe I did, provoke her a little bit to do it. We went to the first bar. I think it was Bambi's. And arrangements were made for her to go on stage, and she went on the backstage.
So let me stop you. How were arrangements made? Look. How
went
were
up-
arrangements made for her to go on the stage?
I was kind of like her agent.
Well, Mr. Gallagher, that's a conclusion, sir. Tell me exactly what you did to
Went up to,
make these
one of the-
arrangements.
Grabbed one of the guys, like the Mexican guys that worked there that spoke English, and said she wants to dance. And then at first they look at her and like, yeah, but they try to play hardball. No, you know, we can't have her up. And we negotiate back and forth.
What do you negotiate about?
Just to get her on, you know.
What negotiating usually involves money.
Yeah, well, she's gonna
So
make
let me
money.
hear.
He wanted free
Oh,
drinks.
free beers for me.
Just a second. So you negotiated with one of the proprietors, or
I drank free, she got to dance. That was the negotiation. Oh, she got to drink free too, that was a given. And so we negotiated she was going to go on the backstage. I think she wanted to get on the front stage where she would make more money and have more exposure, this little room in the back with a small backstage. She gets up there and takes her clothes off, and hell breaks loose. I mean, they can't believe what they're seeing. She's very beautiful. I mean, the whole bar moves to the back where it's getting crowded while she's dancing and going off. And I mean, bottles start flying, and people are like getting so close to each other. And I mean, it was like a madhouse. And she starts, you know, dancing. And I got, you know, kind of jealous of her, you know, to see her doing that.
so you got angry.
I got angry and I got jealous. It was
Seriously?
painful. No,
Seriously?
I didn't get angry. I tried to keep in perspective. Tried to. And
But you had a lot of booze.
we were getting drunk. We were drinking.
Well, she wasn't drinking when she was up there dancing, but you were continuing to drink when
She was
she was
drinking
up.
when she got down, though.
But you were drinking while she was dancing.
Yeah, but not
Okay.
as much as her.
She came down and you got angry. Tell me what happened.
No, I
when
didn't get angry. When she came down, we decided to go to another bar where she could do the same thing because it was kind of wearing thin there and it got kind of violent. They were going crazy when they saw her. So we went to a bar next door.
Were you fond of this lady?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not registered. Maybe it's my puritanical upbringing. You know, that's not funny. That's not meant to be funny, sir. I just don't understand a man who would encourage. In fact, I think she's nuts for wanting to do it in the first place.
Well, that's
but
what
a
she does
man
now.
who would encourage someone who he's fond of, negotiate, act as her agent.
Well, I make sure she's
Tell-
okay, you know, and nothing would take place. I wasn't going to let anyone hurt her.
That's not what I'm talking about, sir. Usually there's a certain proprietary interest that
Well,
men
that's what
have
she does
in their
now.
women and women have in men that they like.
It was in
I
the
don't
secrecy.
quite understand you.
It was in the secrecy of Mexico where she would remain...
Order.
She would remain anonymous. No one would find out about this, and she could let her inhibitions go. And
His inhibition.
no,
All right. Yours
she
too.
drugged me
Listen.
down there.
You went there before without him.
Yes.
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 Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That sounds pretty reasonable
That's
to
why I
me.
asked
Both
him.
acted like idiots.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. John Gallagher admits he became jealous when his girlfriend Julia danced in a strip club, but he says he didn't mean to cause the injury to her eardrum.
I want you to tell me she assaulted you because you called her a whore. Is that right?
In the second bar, I made the horrible mistake of calling her a whore. I did. It was
Okay.
horrible.
And tell me about the assault that took place on you.
Well, first, she lied because I didn't just hand the girl money. I'm standing there, I felt guilty. I'm next to this girl dancing, and I took one of her dollar bills that she had just earned of hundreds, and I gave her one, and she got jealous and was pissed off.
Were you injured when she hit you?
The first two times she's hitting like a girl, it didn't hurt, and I did say, yeah, you hit like a girl, hit me again. She hit me again. Third time, she belted me so hard, my lip just exploded. Blood was coming out. And it almost knocked me down. Believe it or not, she can hit pretty good.
Okay, and what
So-
about hitting you with the clog in your head? She
Well-
hit you with the clog.
Federales are coming, and it's an urgency, so they stuff us in a cab, and we're driving, but we just keep arguing in the cab, arguing back and forth, and she hits me in the back of the head with a clog, and I barely remember that, except the next day I had a big bump on my head. We get through the United States, like she said, we go to the parking lot to use the bathroom before wherever we're going to go. We're going to drive. We're both drunk. And she gets passionate again. We start arguing. We had moments of calm and fury and calm and fury where we kind of calm down. And she's that way. She can fight good. So, you know, I'm going to tell you the truth. I was drunk at the time. I can't remember every detail that occurred. But I know that she was starting to get angry again, and I don't know if she was going to hit me or I thought she was going to hit me or she tried to. Can't remember. But I know that I grabbed her and I picked her up. And she was wrestling. And she went limp.
This was in the bathroom?
In the bathroom. And she was flailing, and I was drunk, and I didn't know that she hit her head. She just went limp in my hands. And she sunk down to the ground on her butt. And she sat there and looked up at me, and then she started to say she couldn't hear. And I really thought she was embellishing something. I didn't believe her at first, and she started to cry and scream and get more hysterical. And I didn't believe that she was hurt.
Ultimately,
really.
you took her to the hospital.
And ultimately, we ended up at the hospital. Her injuries are obviously real. The doctor found out that she had a bruise here in the back of her left ear, I think. Left ear, and she was, I don't know if she lost her hearing or not.
What did you originally offer to pay her to
When the bills
help
came,
offset?
we'd split it.
You'd split it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds pretty reasonable
That's
to
why I
me.
asked
Both
him to-
acted like idiots. It sounds pretty reasonable to me that you should split it.
She probably did hit her head as a result of me lifting her up. I don't think on purpose. I know on purpose I didn't try to hurt her.
After you arrived back in the United States and after this whole incident, did you continue to see each other?
Yes.
For how long?
About 4 more months until I kept catching him cheating on me. So I finally...
So you saw each other for 4 months after
Right.
that? You had already gotten these bills?
Yes, I'd gotten it, and he's given me $25 on those
50.
bills.
I gave you 50.
25.
Did you ever take up this dancing as an occupation?
That's
Yes.
what I'm doing now.
Good, too.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Julie Opp wants her former boyfriend, John Gallagher, to pay the medical bills for an injury he caused when he became jealous over her appearance in a Tijuana strip club.
I read medical bills at $1,800.
And then also, I was suing him for $300 because I had to get a restraining order against him.
That's your problem. Listen to me. Miss Opp, I think you made a big mistake. I think this whole escapade in Mexico was a big mistake, and I'm not being judgmental. I'm just saying to you that getting drunk, and engaging in bar dancing with your boyfriend is not something that's designed to solidify a relationship in normal terms. Maybe I'm missing something. My kids might say to me, you know, you're operating in the 40s and 50s and 60s, Mother, but I don't think so. I think still people who care for each other don't want to see other people slipping dollar bills in somebody's panties.
It wasn't that
Do you
bad.
know what I mean,
Yeah.
sir? And certainly not acting as their agent, which is, to me, almost like acting under these circumstances like a pimp.
It was pretty innocent.
It's pretty nasty. So you ought to pay for... I'm not going to have him pay for the whole thing. You contributed to this ridiculousness. And as it happens, I believe that you contributed to it even more than you initially told me you did, because you went down there before with a girlfriend, which is something that you didn't tell me right away. You said you had never done anything like this before. Right? Isn't that what you told me?
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
so your medical bills, you didn't have any medical bills from being clocked by her, did you?
No.
No. All right. Your medical bills were $1,800, and you're going to pay for half. So the judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $900. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And on the next Judge Judy.
He lies, he cheats, he's not faithful. It just didn't work out between us.
We were drunk.
I don't get drunk.
You were drunk.
I
was drunk. You
I
were
get
drunk.
buzzed. If I get drunk, I get sick. I don't get drunk. He's the one who got me into dancing altogether. He dated all the dancers. I felt if I didn't become a dancer, he would keep cheating on me.
No, that's not true.
It
She
is
knows
true.
that she's real hot.
এটা পেছনে খুব সহজে করতে পারি কিভাবে এটা করবেন কি কি রাখবেন ছেলে এই ভিডিওতে শেয়ার করবো অবশ্যই ভিডিওটা পুরোপুরি দেখতে বলবেন না ধন্যবাদ সবাইকে